Tonight, if you hear me deeply, if you let these words pass not only through the ear, but into the feeling of your being, you may sleep as one who has long struggled under the weight of money, and wake inwardly, free. I do not say this to comfort you with pleasant speech. I do not speak in metaphor, nor do I offer you some fragile hope to carry until morning. I am telling you plainly, with all the certainty I have learned, through testing the law, that the state in which you fall asleep tonight can begin to alter the financial conditions of your life. Not someday in theory, but now in principle, now in cause, now in consciousness. You may think your problem is money. You may think your trouble lies in unpaid bills, delayed opportunities, closed doors, low wages, debts, obligations, or the pressure of tomorrow. But I tell you, these are not the cause. They are the shadow. They are the outpicturing of a state already accepted within. The world of money, like every other part of life, is an effect. It is not the source. Financial freedom does not begin in the purse, in the account, in the market, or in the hands of another. Financial freedom begins in consciousness. It begins in the secret place of your own wonderful human imagination. Listen to me carefully tonight, for what I am saying is meant to be received in stillness. I am not asking you to strain. I am not asking you to force belief. I am not asking you to wrestle with the facts of your life this very moment. I am asking you to hear a greater fact. The greater fact is this: what you assume to be true of yourself and feel to be true must in time harden into the conditions of your life. If you sleep in fear, you nourish fear. If you sleep in lack, you deepen lack. If you sleep in the feeling of being trapped, you continue to move through a world that reflects that trap. But if tonight you enter sleep in the feeling of relief, of provision, of already being cared for, already being supplied, already being free, then you have planted a different seed, and a different seed must bear a different harvest. Do not leave this to chance. Do not leave this to luck. Do not tell yourself that fortune belongs to the few, that money comes only to the ruthless, the fortunate, or the favored, by some external power. There is no external power determining your fate. There is no cruel destiny seated outside of you, deciding who shall prosper and who shall struggle. I speak from law, not from superstition. I speak from experience, not from speculation. I have seen men and women transform the conditions of their lives when they dared to change the state from which they lived. I have seen the burdened become relieved, the desperate become secure, the anxious become supplied, not first by outer effort, but by an inner shift faithfully sustained. You have perhaps tried many things. You may have worked harder, worried longer, planned more carefully, pleaded in prayer, repeated words, and still felt the pressure in your chest when night came. You may have asked, why does it not change for me? And because you asked from the old state answered. Tonight I ask you to suspend that old question. For a little while, do not ask how. Do not ask when. Do not ask whether you are worthy. Do not ask if it is possible. Ask only this: what would it feel like right now if I were already financially free in spirit? If the burden were lifted, if I no longer feared tomorrow, if I knew with quiet certainty that I am provided for. This is where the change begins. Not in forcing coins into the hand, but in dissolving the consciousness of lack. Not in chasing money as a frightened man chases bread, but in assuming the state of one to whom supply is natural. You must understand me. I am not telling you to deny the existence of your present facts as though you were blind. I am telling you to cease worshipping them as final. The facts are yesterday's news. They are old assumptions made visible. You are not condemned to repeat them. Tonight you may begin anew, for the power to begin anew is always in consciousness. And because this message is for the night, for the quiet hours, for that sacred interval when the body grows still and the world loosens its grip upon the senses, I say to you, do not merely listen, receive. Let these words become an atmosphere. Let them settle upon you. Let the struggle in your mind soften. Let the old arguments rest. You need not solve your life before sleep. You need only choose the state in which you will surrender to sleep. That is enough to begin. That is enough to plant. That is enough to set the law in motion. I know there are many who hear such words and say within themselves, "It sounds beautiful, but my troubles are real." Yes, your troubles are real as experiences, but they are not self-caused in the outer world. They are effects, and because they are effects, they can be replaced. If they were cause, you would be helpless. But you are not helpless. You are the operant power. You are the one who can assume a different condition of being. You are the one who can, even now, in the silence of this night, begin to feel what you have not yet touched with your hands. And if you can feel it as real, if you can accept it inwardly, then the unseen cause has changed. And the visible world must in its own appointed way reflect that change. So tonight I speak to the deeper self in you, the one beneath the worry, beneath the counting, beneath the old disappointments. I speak to the imaginer in you, the creator in you, the one who has forgotten for a time that he is the source of what he experiences. I remind you now, you are not here merely to endure conditions. You are here to assume states. You are here to select inwardly what you wish to experience, outwardly. And if you will hear me deeply tonight, if you will receive this not as a pleasant idea, but as law, then something in you will begin to yield. And in that yielding, a new financial life can begin in seed form before you ever close your eyes. Do not be troubled if you do not yet know how to do it perfectly. Perfection is not required tonight. Receptivity is required. Willingness is required. A little faith in the unseen is required. Even now, as you listen, you may feel a softening in the body, a slight release in the chest, a quiet thought rising that says, perhaps I am not doomed to repeat this. Perhaps I can change. Perhaps relief can begin within. If that thought comes, cherish it. It is not a small thing. It is the crack through which a new dawn enters. And before this night is over, I will show you the exact inner act that makes financial freedom natural. I know what it is to feel the pressure of necessity. I know what it is to lie down with the body tired and the mind still racing, to feel that the day is over, and yet the burden has followed you into the night. Many who hear me now are not merely desiring more money in some idle way. They are weary. They are carrying the weight of bills that do not wait, obligations that return, promises to keep, mouths to feed, duties to meet, and a tomorrow that sometimes feels like a question mark hanging over the bed. I know that feeling, and I do not speak to you tonight as one who mocks your struggle with grand words. I speak to you as one who understands that the pressure feels real because you have felt it in your nerves, in your breathing, in your sleep, and in your waking. Perhaps you have known the habit of calculating as you lie down. You have counted what is due. You have counted what is missing. You have counted the days until payment. You have counted what might happen if nothing changes. You have replayed conversations, obligations, disappointments, and all the while your body has begged for rest. Yet even in bed, the mind has stood watch like a frightened guard. This is the hidden exhaustion of financial fear. It is not only the labor of the hands, it is the labor of the heart under strain, the labor of imagination turned against itself, the labor of tomorrow lived in advance through worry. And many of you have tried. You have tried earnestly. You have prayed. You have affirmed. You have read words of truth. You have spoken hopeful phrases in the morning, and still felt a knot of concern return by afternoon. You have said, I believe, and then looked at the facts, and felt shaken. You have attempted to remain positive, only to find that in the quiet of night, the old fear returned and whispered, what if nothing changes? If this has been your experience, do not condemn yourself for it. Do not call yourself weak. Do not call yourself weak. Do not imagine you have failed beyond repair. You are not failing because fear appeared. You are only learning the law more deeply. You are learning that words alone do not transform a state. Feeling accepted does. I want you to feel seen in this, because many suffer not only from lack, but from shame about their suffering. They think, If I understood the law perfectly, I would never worry. That is not the way to begin. The way to begin is honesty, gentleness, and a willingness to turn inward without condemning oneself. If tonight you are tired, then let that tiredness be acknowledged. If you are afraid, acknowledge that fear has visited you, but do not enthrone it. Do not build your identity around it. You may say quietly within yourself, "Yes, I have felt this pressure. Yes, I have feared tomorrow. Yes, I have grown weary of trying and still worrying." And having said that, you may now begin to turn. For here is the common error. And it is so common because it appears sensible to the outer mind. Men say, "When my money changes, then I shall feel peace. When the debt is gone, then I shall breathe. When the account is full, then I shall sleep. When security appears, then I shall feel free." This seems reasonable, and yet it keeps them chained to the old order of cause and effect. They wait for the event to create the state. They wait for money to produce peace. They wait for evidence to produce freedom. They wait for the outer world to give them permission to feel inwardly relieved. And because they wait, the state remains unchanged, and the outer world continues to mirror the waiting. Listen carefully, for this is the great inversion, the turning point, the door. Do not change money in order to feel peace. Feel peace in order that money may change. Do not wait for security to feel free. Feel inwardly free, and let security come as the shadow of that state. Do not postpone relief until the evidence appears. Enter relief now in imagination, and the evidence will follow in its season. This is not mere comfort. This is law. Life is lived from within outward. Consciousness is the cause. Circumstances are the effect. I say again, and I want this to sink into you because it is a key you can carry long after this night. Financial freedom is first a state and then an event. First a state and then an event. It begins as an inward condition of being, an accepted feeling, a new relation to self and supply. Only afterward does it become a check, an opportunity, a clear debt, an open door, an increase, a gift, a position, a contract, or any outward form. But if you reverse the order, if you demand the event before the state, you remain dependent on appearances and at war with the law. Financial freedom is first a state and then an event. Let that phrase rest upon your mind. If you remember nothing else from this part of our night together, remember this. The state is the seed. The event is the fruit. The state is the cause. The event is the shadow cast by the cause. The state is your inner acceptance of being provided for, supported, supplied, and free. The event is simply the world's way of confirming what you first accepted in consciousness. Now some will say, "But how can I feel peace when the bills are still there?" I understand the question, and I honor it, for it rises from real strain. Yet I must answer plainly. You do not begin by trying to deny the paper on the table. You begin by withdrawing from the belief that the paper has authority over your state. The bill can be present and still not be your master. The account may show little and yet not define your identity. The facts may remain for a moment while the state begins to change within you. You are learning to live from the deeper center, not from the passing appearance. You are learning to say gently and truthfully, "This is what appears now, but it is not the final word. The final word is within." And when you begin to practice this, something softens. You are no longer trying to force yourself into false cheerfulness. You are no longer pretending the pressure never existed. Rather, you are giving yourself a new place to stand. You are saying, "I have felt fear. Yes. I have known exhaustion. Yes. I have worried after praying. Yes. But I now understand that my peace cannot remain hostage to the next envelope, the next payment, the next number. I must recover peace inwardly first. I must return to the source." This is not passivity. This is the beginning of power. Many people spend years trying to improve conditions while never altering the state from which they approach those conditions. So they work, but from fear. They plan, but from anxiety. They pray, but from desperation. They affirm, but inwardly remain unconvinced. And because the law responds to the state, not merely to the words, they continue to reproduce the same emotional world and call it fate. It is not fate. It is an unobserved state repeated. The moment the state changes, the pattern begins to break. Financial freedom is first a state, and then an event. I repeat it because repetition, when joined with feeling, begins to instruct the deeper mind. Let the phrase become something more than language. Let it become a lens through which you now view your life. If peace has not yet appeared outwardly, do not conclude that peace is impossible. Conclude only that the state must be cultivated within. If money has not yet changed, do not assume the law has failed. Ask instead, from what state have I been meeting life? Have I been meeting it as one cornered, one deprived, one waiting to be rescued? Or can I begin, even tonight, to meet life as one inwardly held, inwardly supported, inwardly guided, inwardly free? I would not have you strain over this. The law is exact, but the approach must be gentle. The heart under financial pressure is often tired, and a tired heart does not need scolding. It needs truth spoken tenderly. So let me speak tenderly to you now. You are not disqualified because you have worried. You are not cut off because you have doubted. You are not beyond help because you have tried many times and still feel tired. You are simply at the threshold of a deeper understanding. You are beginning to see that what you sought outside must first be generated within. And once you truly see this, resistance begins to dissolve. For resistance often comes from this hidden thought: these teachings sound beautiful, but my situation is practical and urgent. I understand. But what is more practical than learning the cause of the condition? If a man is thirsty, he may chase reflections on the road and call that practicality. But the wise thing is to seek the spring. Tonight I am pointing you to the spring. The spring is consciousness. The spring is your accepted state. The spring is the feeling of inner sufficiency, inner support, inner peace, before the outer evidence appears. From that spring the events of life take shape. And I tell you again, not as poetry, but as law. Financial freedom is first a state and then an event. First a state and then an event. When that state becomes natural, the event becomes inevitable. You may not know the channel. It may come by one path or another. It may come in a manner you did not predict. But the event must come, because the world has no choice but to objectify your sustained state. This is why I urge you not merely to seek money tonight. Seek first the state in which money is no longer your master. Seek the feeling of release. Seek the feeling that the burden is lifting. Seek the inward poise of one who knows, I am provided for. If as you listen, you feel emotion rising, let it rise. If you feel grief for years spent in strain, let it pass through. If you feel tiredness, let the body rest into these words. There is no need to perform for the law. There is only the need to become inwardly honest and then inwardly willing. And if you are willing, this very night can become a turning point. Not because every outer fact changes before dawn, but because the state from which you meet those facts begins to change. And when the state changes, the future is no longer the past repeated. So let this settle in you now, as we go deeper. You are not being asked to become careless. You are not being asked to neglect your duties. You are being asked to cease making your peace dependent upon appearances. You are being asked to recover your center. You are being asked to feel first what you once promised yourself you would feel only after the money came. That is the inversion. That is the door. That is the beginning of inner freedom. And inner freedom, faithfully assumed, becomes outer freedom in form. Financial freedom is first a state and then an event. Hold that quietly. Breathe with it. Let it accompany you into the next part of this night. For once the heart accepts this principle, it becomes possible to do what seemed impossible before, to enter rest while conditions are still rearranging, to feel provision before the proof, and to fall asleep, not as a debtor to life, but as the operant power choosing a new state. Now let me make this plain, for unless you understand the principle, you may hear these words as comfort and miss them as law. I am not here to soothe you with pleasant phrases. I am here to show you the structure of creation, as I have proven it in my own life and seen it proven in the lives of countless others. Consciousness is the only reality. I do not mean that the chair is unreal to the senses, nor that the bill on the table cannot be seen. I mean that the cause of all that appears is consciousness, and what appears is the outpicturing of states entertained, accepted, and felt as true. The world is not self-caused. It is projected. It is expressed. It is the visible garment worn by the invisible assumptions of man. When I speak of consciousness, I am speaking of your awareness of being. I am speaking of that inward sense of I am, to which you unite a quality. I am poor. I am struggling. I am behind. I am secure. I am free. I am provided for. The I am is the root, and what you attach to it becomes the state you occupy. Consciousness is not merely thinking many thoughts in a day. It is the deeper acceptance of what you are, what life is, what is possible for you, what is natural to you. You may think 1,000 hopeful thoughts, and yet remain in one dominant state, and it is the dominant state that fashions your world. So let me define a state in the simplest way. A state is an organized pattern of consciousness. It is a psychological dwelling place. It is the mood, identity, expectation, and inner posture from which you meet life. A state contains your reactions, your assumptions, your silent conversations, your emotional tone, and your sense of what is normal. You do not merely visit a state once and then lose its effect. You dwell in states, and the state in which you dwell most naturally becomes the world you call your life. If you dwell in the state of not enough, then even when help comes, you fear it will leave. Even when money appears, you feel pressure. Even when opportunity knocks, you approach it with strain. Why? Because the state remains unchanged. An assumption is the act of accepting a state as true. It may be false to the senses when first assumed, and yet, if persisted in, it hardens into fact. This is not poetry. This is the law of consciousness. You assume all day long, though most do so unconsciously. You assume how people will treat you. You assume what tomorrow will bring. You assume whether money comes easily or with struggle. You assume whether you are the kind of person who always gets ahead or always falls behind. These assumptions are rarely spoken aloud with great ceremony. They are often quiet, habitual, unnoticed. Yet they are powerful because they are accepted. And whatever is accepted in consciousness must be expressed. Now bring this directly into the realm of money, for that is why you are here tonight. Money in itself is shadow. State is cause. Money is the visible symbol. State is the invisible source. Money is the outpicturing. State is the pattern projected. Men worship the shadow and ignore the source, then wonder why the shadow shifts. They chase money while still feeling inwardly trapped. And because the feeling of bondage remains, the outer world continues to mirror bondage in one form or another. Perhaps they earn more, but feel no freer. Perhaps they receive a sum, but remain afraid. Perhaps they gain and lose in cycles. Why? Because they have addressed the shadow and not the state. I tell you, the state is everything. If I feel myself financially trapped, then even my prayers may come from the state of entrapment. I ask as one imprisoned. I affirm as one trying to escape. I plan as one under threat. And because the state is the cause, my world must continue to express that pressure until the state itself is changed. But if I assume financial freedom inwardly, if I begin to feel myself as one who is already provided for, already safe, already released from the strain of not enough, then money and channels of supply begin to reflect that state. Not because I force them, but because the world is myself pushed out. This is why I say you do not manifest what you want. You manifest what you are. A man may want money desperately and yet continue to manifest lack, because inwardly he remains the man who is never quite there, always catching up. always one step behind. His wanting is not the creative act, his state is. Another may desire the same thing, yet he assumes freedom. He moves inwardly into the feeling of being supplied, supported, and financially at ease. He identifies with the state of freedom before the evidence appears. Then money follows that state as a natural shadow follows the body. The difference is not in the intensity of wanting, the difference is in the state occupied. Let me put it to you by contrast, so you may hear the law more clearly. One man asks for money while feeling trapped. He prays, but feels pressed. He affirms, but inwardly trembles. He seeks increase, but his inner conversation is still, what if this fails? What if I lose it? What if it is not enough? He is asking for money, while remaining loyal to the state of confinement. Another assumes freedom, and money follows. He may begin with little visible change, yet inwardly he has accepted a new identity. He feels, I am not a man under the thumb of lack. I am provided for. I am led. I am released. I am financially free in consciousness. From that state, his actions, responses, and opportunities change, and the outer world must conform. The first seeks money as rescue. The second assumes freedom as identity. Do you see why lack persists for so many? It is not because they are wicked. It is not because life has singled them out for hardship. It persists because they habitually inhabit the state of not enough. They wake in it, speak from it, react from it, plan from it, sleep in it. They may hate it, but they remain in it. They may pray against it, but they continue to feel from it. The law does not respond to what they reject with words. It responds to what they occupy in consciousness. If you sleep in the feeling of insufficiency, you fertilize insufficiency. If you rise in the mood of pressure, you animate pressure. If you conduct your inner conversations as one cornered by life, life must mirror the corner. I say this not to blame, but to free. For the moment you understand that lack is a state, you cease treating it as an unchangeable identity. You stop saying, this is just how life is for me, and begin to see, son, this is a state I have occupied. A state may feel ancient because you have worn it long, but it is still a garment, and garments may be changed. You are not the state. You are the operant power who occupies states. You are the awareness that can move from one state to another. The state of lack may have been familiar, but familiarity is not destiny. Persistence made it feel natural. A new persistence can make freedom feel natural. Now, what is financial freedom in consciousness? It is not merely seeing a large number in the mind. It is not daydreaming of luxury while still feeling anxious. It is a state of being in which the feeling of pressure is replaced by inward sufficiency. It is the natural sense that supply is yours, that life supports you, that provision is not a rare interruption, but your expected experience. It is the end of inward begging. It is a quiet authority in your own being. It is the feeling that you are no longer at the mercy of each bill, each delay, each appearance. It is the identity of one who is financially free before the world has fully caught up. And because many confuse desire with possession and consciousness, let me say this carefully. There is nothing wrong with desire. Desire is the summons of a state you are capable of occupying. But if you remain only in desire, you remain in distance. Desire says, I want. Assumption says, I am. Desire looks at freedom as something outside itself. Assumption enters the feeling of freedom and dwells there. Desire can inspire the journey, but assumption is the creative act. You do not become financially free by wanting freedom for a long time. You become financially free by assuming the state of freedom and remaining loyal to it until it hardens into fact. Imagination, then, is not fantasy in the childish sense. Imagination is reality in its causal form. What you imagine and feel to be true is the seed of future fact. The world you touch is imagination objectified. If this is true in love, in health, in opportunity, it is true in finance as well. Money itself has no independent will. It flows according to channels, yes, but the channels are arranged in harmony with states. Change the state, and you will be led across a bridge of incidents that reflects it. A new idea, a new opening, a restored relationship, a changed condition, a forgotten source, a timely invitation, an unforeseen means. These are all shadows cast by the changed state. Do not worship the bridge. Change the state. You may ask, but must I deny what I see? I tell you, no. You need not deny the appearance in order to deny it authority. You may see the current fact and yet refuse to make it your dwelling place in consciousness. You may handle what is before you and still inwardly remain faithful to the state of financial freedom. This is maturity in the law. You are not asked to become careless. You are asked to become causal. You do what is wise outwardly, but you live from the end inwardly. You deal with the shadow while remaining loyal to the source. Let this foundation settle deeply in you, because all that follows in our night together rests upon it. Consciousness is the only reality. The world is the outpicturing of consciousness. Assumption, though false to the senses, if persisted in, hardens into fact. Money is shadow. State is cause. Lack persists, because men inhabit the state of not enough, and you do not manifest what you merely want, you manifest what you are. Therefore, if you would wake financially free, begin by becoming financially free in consciousness. Assume the state, feel from it, think from it, rest in it, and let the world, which can do no other, reflect your accepted claim. Now let me take you into the law itself, in the most practical way I can, for many hear the phrase and admire it, but few apply it with precision. I have said, and I say again, assumption, though false, if persisted in, will harden into fact. Hear it slowly. An assumption may be false to the senses at the moment you assume it. The room may still look the same. The purse may still seem light. The account may still appear unchanged. The letters may still lie upon the table. Yet if you assume a new state and persist in that assumption inwardly, the world must in time reshape itself to mirror what you have accepted. The falsehood is only to the senses, never to the law. The law does not ask whether appearances agree. It asks only, what are you conscious of being? This is where men stumble, because they confuse wishing with assuming. Wishing looks at the desired state from a distance and says, how lovely that would be. Assuming enters the state and says, this is mine now. Wishing leaves the thing in the future. Assuming brings it into the present in consciousness. Wishing often carries a sweetness, but also a confession of separation. Assuming carries quiet possession. The one longs. The other accepts. The one waits to feel different until the event occurs. The other feels different first, and therefore calls the event into being. In the same way, begging is not possessing. A man may pray for financial relief, and yet inwardly remain a beggar. He pleads, he fears, he bargains, he watches, and all the while he feels himself outside the state. He is asking for bread while feeling hunger as his identity. But possessing is entirely different. Possessing in consciousness is the inward acceptance that it is already done. It does not shout, it does not strain, it does not demand signs every hour. It rests. It may still act in the world, but inwardly it has ceased asking and begun receiving. You cannot at the same moment feel yourself a beggar and a possessor. Choose the state. And there is another distinction you must understand. If you would use this law wisely, and that is the difference between thinking of and thinking from. To think of financial freedom is to place it before you as an object. You think of it as something separate, something admired, something hoped for. You may think of debt being gone, of money arriving, of ease coming someday. But to think from financial freedom is entirely different. To think from it is to occupy the state of one who is already free. Then your thoughts change in tone. Your inner conversations change in quality. Your reactions change in spirit. You are no longer thinking about relief as a stranger. You are thinking from relief as your dwelling place. So let me walk you through this step by step, plainly and slowly, as I would guide a student who sincerely wishes to prove the law tonight. First, understand your desire correctly. Desire is not proof of lack in the final sense. Desire is invitation. Desire is the call of a state seeking embodiment through you. If you desire financial freedom, do not condemn the desire, and do not worship it either. See it for what it is, an invitation to enter a new state of consciousness. It is not saying you are empty. It is saying, come up higher. The desire itself is evidence that the state can be occupied. But many misuse desire. They turn it into a monument to what is missing. They stare at it, speak of it, ache over it, compare themselves to others, and in so doing, they remain in the state of not having. I tell you, honor the desire by using it properly. Let it direct you to the end, not to despair. Let it reveal the state you are to assume. If you feel the desire to be financially free, then ask not, why do I not have it? Ask instead, what would I be conscious of if I were financially free now? That question opens the door. Second, select the end, not the means. This is one of the great secrets, and it is missed by many who otherwise practice sincerely. They choose the means and then bind themselves to it. They say, it must come by this man, by this sum, by this date, by this channel, by this arrangement. Then, when life begins to move by another way, they fail to recognize the bridge. Your task is not to determine the channel. Your task is to choose the end. The end is the fulfilled condition. The end is the state accomplished. If your desire is financial freedom, the end is not someone gives me this exact amount in this exact manner. The end is I am financially free. I am at ease. I am released. I am secure. I am provided for. Choose a simple end that implies the thing is already done. It may be the feeling of opening a ledger and seeing nothing owed. It may be hearing a friend say, I am so relieved for you. Everything has turned around. It may be the inward ease of lying in bed without pressure in the chest. It may be the joy of paying every obligation with calm certainty. It may be the feeling of your affairs settled and your heart quiet. Select the end. Do not choose the road. Choose the destination. Third, assume it now. This is the creative act. Do not postpone it. Do not say, I shall assume it after I understand more, or I shall assume it once I feel ready. Assumption is how you become ready. Enter the state in imagination now. If you wait for evidence before assuming, you invert the law. The world reflects. It does not initiate. So now, in the stillness of your own being, claim the state. Say within yourself, not as mere words, but as inward acceptance. I am financially free. Let the phrase be more than language. Let it be identity. Let it settle into the feeling of being. If this feels foreign at first, do not be troubled. Every new state feels strange, when first assumed, because the old state has been worn long. But the unfamiliarity of a state is not proof of its falseness. It is only proof that it is new to your habit. Persist gently, return again. Assume again. You are not trying to convince the senses at this stage. You are impressing the subconscious by repeated acceptance. The subconscious yields to what is felt and accepted, not to what is argued. Fourth, persist inwardly. Here is where the law separates the merely curious from the one who proves it. A single imaginal act may be powerful, yes, and often is, but the dominant state is what governs your world. Therefore, after assuming, remain faithful inwardly. This does not mean strain. It does not mean forced repetition all day in anxiety. It means loyalty to the chosen state. When appearances contradict, return inwardly to the claim. Then fear rises, do not wrestle with it as though it were master. Re-enter the feeling of freedom. When old thoughts say, what if it fails? Answer not with panic, but with possession. It is already done in consciousness. Persistence is not emotional intensity every hour. Persistence is continuity of identity. It is returning to the same inward truth until it becomes natural. It is refusing to make a home in old reactions. It is remembering again and again, I no longer live in the state of financial pressure. I live in the state of financial freedom. If you persist in this way, What was once an imaginal act becomes a mood. What was once a mood becomes a state. What was once a state becomes your natural self-concept. Then manifestation is not a surprise. It is the inevitable outpicturing of your accepted being. Fifth, let the bridge unfold. This is the part the anxious mind resists. Having assumed the end, man immediately asks, how, when, through whom? And by this questioning, often returns to the old state. I tell you, the bridge of incidents belongs to the law, not to your reasoning mind. Once the seed is planted, life begins to arrange itself. Events move, people change. Delays, detours, meetings, letters, ideas, opportunities, even seeming disappointments may all be links in the bridge. Do not uproot the seed, because you cannot yet see the harvest. The bridge often appears natural, ordinary, almost accidental. Yet it is the law made visible. Let me give you simple examples, for these help the mind grasp what the heart must eventually know. Suppose a man is burdened by debt. He lies down at night, and instead of rehearsing figures and fearing tomorrow, he assumes the end. He imagines holding a bill marked paid in full. He hears his own voice say with relief, "It is finished." He feels the release in his body as though the burden were already removed. He persists in that assumption. In time, the bridge may appear as a settlement, an overlooked refund, a new arrangement, a gift, a change in terms, a profitable idea, or a sequence of events he could not have designed. The form may vary. The end, if truly assumed, must appear. Or take another who desires an unexpected check, not as magic for its own sake, but as a symbol of restored flow. If he simply wishes for a check while feeling deprived, he remains in longing. But if he assumes the feeling of surprise and gratitude already fulfilled, if he imagines opening an envelope and drawing forth the check, if he feels the paper in his hand and the inward ease of now I am free to move, and he sleeps in that feeling, then he has planted a seed. The bridge may come through an old account, a delayed payment, an inheritance, repayment, a commission, a forgotten obligation, or some avenue he never considered. Do not dictate the envelope if your true desire is the state of supply, or consider one who seeks a profitable opportunity. If he spends his days asking, "Where is it? Why has it not come? What if I miss it?" she remains in the state of pressure, and pressure clouds perception. But if he assumes himself already established in profitable movement, already the one to whom right opportunities come naturally, already guided and favored in his affairs, then his very perception changes. He notices what he once ignored. He speaks differently. Others respond differently. He takes action not from panic, but from inner sufficiency. Then what appears to the world as good fortune is simply the bridge unfolding from an assumed state. And there is an example even more important than sudden sums or opportunities, and that is the calm that comes after pressure. Many think financial freedom begins with money. I tell you, it often begins with a change in nervous atmosphere. A man who has lived in inward strain may, through assumption, begin to feel calm before anything visible changes. He lies in bed, and for the first time in months, feels ease. He wakes and does not feel the usual dread. He handles the day with a steadier spirit. This calm is not nothing. It is evidence that the state is changing. And because state is cause, this calm, after pressure, is itself one of the surest signs that the bridge is already forming. The world may not yet have caught up, but the cause has been touched. Do not despise these inner shifts, because they seem invisible. The invisible is the only cause. If tonight you feel a greater peace than yesterday, if you feel less bondage and more inward authority, if you can say, "I am financially free," with less strain and more naturalness, then the law is moving. Continue. Persist. Let the unseen root deepen. Men are too eager to pluck fruit from a tree they planted yesterday. Be wiser than that. Assume, persist, and let life unfold the means. Now I must warn you of one subtle error. Do not use assumption as a strained performance. Do not say inwardly, I must maintain this perfectly or all is lost. That itself is fear in sacred clothing. The law is not a tyrant waiting to punish an imperfect student. It is a faithful mirror. If you wander, return. If you doubt, reassume. If you react, revise. Keep moving back into the chosen state. Persistence is not perfection, it is loyalty. The man who persists is not the one who never falters, but the one who refuses to build a home in the old state. And as you practice this, you will notice a profound change. What at first felt like an exercise becomes identity. You no longer merely say, I am financially free as a technique. You begin to feel, quietly and deeply, that financial freedom is natural to you. The language becomes simpler. The effort diminishes. Gratitude begins to rise without forcing. The body softens. The imagination grows vivid. The old story loses its emotional charge. This is how assumption hardens into fact, first in feeling, then in naturalness, then in outpicturing. So remember the order. Desire invites. You choose the end. You assume it now. You persist inwardly. You let the bridge unfold. That is the mechanism. It is simple, but it requires faithfulness. It is subtle, but it is exact. It is invisible, but it is law. Use it tonight not as one experimenting with a toy, but as one handling the key to his own life. Assume what you long to be, and remain there inwardly until the world must reflect your claim. Yet, assumption alone is not enough, if it is not clothed in feeling. Now let us go deeper, and more inward still. For here is the point at which many hear the law, admire the law, speak of the law, and yet fail to prove it in their own lives. They understand the words, but they do not enter the feeling. And I tell you plainly, the subconscious does not respond to words as the surface mind responds to words. It responds to the feeling of reality. It responds to what is inwardly accepted as true. It responds to what you feel yourself to be. You may repeat noble phrases all day, and still remain unchanged if the feeling beneath the phrases contradicts them. A man may say, I am free, I am secure, I am prosperous, and yet inwardly feel pressed, fearful, uncertain, and bound. The subconscious accepts not the sound of his voice, but the state he inhabits. It accepts the emotional tone, the inward climate, the felt condition of being. This is why some grow weary with affirmations, for they use words as though words alone could compel reality. Words are useful only when they awaken feeling. If they do not awaken feeling, they are but dry leaves blown across the surface of the mind. So hear me carefully, especially if you listen in the quiet hours, especially if you listen while sleep draws near. The feeling required is not forced excitement. It is not strain. It is not loud emotion. It is not the fever of trying to persuade yourself. Many think they must become intense, almost dramatic, to impress the subconscious. No, the feeling that most powerfully impresses is often quieter than that. It is relief. It is ease. It is the soft certainty of already possessing. It is the stillness that comes when the burden is lifted. It is the natural sigh of one who no longer carries the weight. If your desire is financial freedom, then ask yourself gently, what would I feel if I were already provided for? Not what would I say to impress others. Not what would I display. What would I feel in the privacy of my own being? You would feel relieved. You would feel released. You would feel a loosening where pressure once lived. You would feel less urgency in the chest. You would feel more space in the mind. You would feel a quiet confidence in tomorrow. Perhaps no great outward shout would come at all. Perhaps only a deep inward exhale. That is enough, more than enough. For that is a real feeling. That is a believable feeling. That is a state the subconscious can accept. This is why I say feeling is the secret. Not because feeling is merely pleasant, but because feeling is the medium of impression. The subconscious is like fertile soil. It does not care for your arguments. It does not weigh your logic. It receives the seed of what is felt as real. If you feel yourself trapped, it accepts trap as truth. If you feel yourself burdened, it accepts burden as truth. If you feel yourself already provided for, already sustained, already free in spirit, it accepts that as truth and begins to outpicture it. Let me say this in another way, slowly, so you can carry it into sleep. The subconscious responds to reality feeling, not to empty speech. It responds to inward acceptance, not verbal effort. It responds to the mood you fall asleep in. It responds to the state you consent to. Therefore, do not merely repeat words of abundance while nursing the feeling of fear. Rather, use your words to lead you into relief. Use your imaginal act to lead you into ease. Use your inner scene to awaken the sensation of, it is done. I am cared for. I am provided for. There is a profound difference between saying, I am wealthy with tension and saying inwardly, it is done, while feeling the burden lifted. The first may be a struggle if it is too far from your present state. The second may be easier, gentler, and often more effective, because it approaches the state through felt release. If the phrase wealthy stirs contradiction in you, then begin where feeling can move, begin with relief, begin with provision, begin with settledness, begin with the sense that your life is no longer under threat. For financial freedom is not only a number, it is an inward atmosphere. And I want you to understand this deeply, because it will spare you much frustration. The correct emotional tone for this work is not forced euphoria. I do not ask you to whip yourself into excitement. I do not ask you to pretend to be thrilled if thrill is not natural to the state you are assuming. If joy comes, welcome it. If tears of gratitude come, let them come. But do not make a spectacle inwardly. The feeling of wealth, in its mature form, is often not excitement at all. It is peace. It is confidence. It is composure. It is ordinary ease. It is natural possession. Think of one who is truly provided for. He does not spend every hour rejoicing that he has bread. He simply eats. He does not perform gratitude to prove he has enough. He moves through the day in quiet sufficiency. This is why naturalness is so important. The state that is truly impressed begins to feel normal. It loses strain. It becomes your inward home. When financial freedom begins to feel natural in imagination, the subconscious has begun to receive it deeply. You are no longer trying to reach it. You are dwelling in it. So tonight, and on many nights, do not concern yourself with grand emotional displays. Concern yourself with the feeling of already provided for. Feel what it is to lie down and know there is no emergency. Feel what it is to let the body sink into the bed without carrying tomorrow as a burden. Feel what it is to say within yourself, my affairs are in order. I am provided for. I am safe. I am at peace. If this is done sincerely, even for a few moments, it can impress the subconscious more deeply than hours of anxious affirming. Why do words fail when feeling contradicts? Because the subconscious is impressed by the deeper confession. The deeper confession is feeling. If the mouth says, all is well, but the body is clenched, the breath is shallow, the mind is rehearsing fear, and the heart is braced against tomorrow, then the deeper confession is not all is well. The deeper confession is fear, and fear too is creative when accepted. The law is impartial. Therefore, the work is not to decorate fear with beautiful language, but to gently move out of fear into the feeling of fulfilled security. This is why I ask you to slow down in this part of the work. Slow the breath, soften the body. Let the shoulders drop. Let the jaw unclench. Let the muscles release. The body often reveals the state before the words do. If you would assume financial freedom before sleep, then let the body participate in the assumption. Let it feel what relief feels like. Let it feel what release feels like. Let it feel what calm certainty feels like. The imaginal act and the bodily response together create a powerful impression. And if you wonder what feeling you are seeking, I will give you simple guideposts. You are seeking relief. You are seeking ease. You are seeking quiet certainty. You are seeking the felt sense that the matter is settled. You are seeking natural possession, not frantic triumph, not restless anticipation. Settledness. The feeling of already handled, the feeling of already arranged, the feeling of already provided for. This is the feeling that carries wealth in seed form. There is also gratitude, and I must speak carefully here, because many misunderstand it. Gratitude is not a trick to get results. Gratitude is not a formula to manipulate the law. Gratitude, when real, is the fragrance of possession. It arises naturally when the state is touched. When you truly feel the burden lifted, gratitude may come by itself. A simple thank you may rise without effort. A soft warmth may spread through the chest. A tenderness may come over you. This is beautiful, but let it come as consequence, not as performance. Do not force gratitude while feeling deprived and call that faith. Better to seek the feeling of relief and let gratitude follow. Better to enter the state of being provided for and then whisper, thank you, because it feels true. Gratitude that is forced from fear is only another form of effort. Gratitude that flows from fulfilled feeling is evidence that the state is being impressed. One is strain, the other is overflow. Learn the difference, and you will walk more gently and more powerfully in the law. And the sign that the impression is taking root is naturalness. I return to this because it is vital. When the imaginal act first begins, the desired state may feel like a visitor. Then, with repetition and feeling, it begins to feel familiar. Then one night, you notice that the phrase, I am provided for, no longer feels like a statement you are trying to believe. It feels like a quiet fact. One morning, you wake, and the old dread is weaker. One day, a bill appears, and instead of inward collapse, there is steadiness. This is naturalness. This is the new state becoming your dwelling place. Naturalness is not laziness. It is not indifference. It is the absence of inward conflict. The state feels less like imagination and more like identity. And when that happens, manifestation moves with greater ease because you are no longer sending contradictory impressions. You are no longer asking and denying in the same breath. You are inwardly one with your claim. The subconscious accepts what is natural to you. Therefore, persist until the feeling of freedom becomes natural. Persist until provision feels normal. Persist until peace around money feels like your own atmosphere. As you listen, perhaps while sleep comes nearer, let me give you phrases not as mere affirmations, but as doorways into feeling. Let them be spoken inwardly, slowly, with the body relaxed and the mind softened. Do not rush them. Let each one land in sensation. Feel the relief now, not tomorrow, not after the outer sign. Feel the relief now. Feel what it is to be released from pressure. Feel what it is to no longer carry the weight. Feel the relief now. Feel the burden lifted. Feel it in your chest. Feel it in your belly. Feel it in your jaw. Feel the burden lifted from your mind. Feel the burden lifted from your sleep. Feel the burden lifted from tomorrow. Feel the burden lifted. Feel it as done. Do not strain to make it happen. Feel it as done. Feel the matter settled. Feel the answer given. Feel the provision established. Feel your life supported. Feel it as done. And again, because repetition in this gentle manner helps the deeper mind receive. Feel the relief now. Feel the burden lifted. Feel it as done. If the mind wanders, return to this. If old fears rise, do not fight them fiercely. Return to this. If the body tightens, soften, and return to this. Feel the relief now. Feel the burden lifted. Feel it as done. These simple phrases, joined to real sensation, can carry you more deeply than complicated methods. You may also use a small imaginal scene to awaken the feeling. See yourself lying in the same bed, but with a different inner state. See yourself breathing freely. See yourself waking in the morning with peace instead of pressure. Hear yourself say, quietly, thank God, I am provided for. Feel the sheets beneath your hands as one who is no longer afraid of tomorrow. Let the scene be small and intimate. The subconscious receives intimacy. It receives reality. It receives what is felt. Or imagine paying something easily, not a grand display, just a simple act done with calm. A bill handled without anxiety. A letter opened without dread. A conversation about money in a tone of ease rather than fear. Imagine your own voice sounding steady. Imagine your body remaining relaxed. Imagine the ordinary dignity of one whose financial life is no longer a source of inner bondage. This ordinary feeling, because it is believable and natural, can go very deep. Do not concern yourself if at first the feeling comes only for moments. Moments are seeds. A few genuine moments of relief before sleep can begin to alter the whole current of your subconscious life. You are not trying to maintain a perfect state every hour from the first night. You are cultivating a new inward climate. You are teaching the body and mind a new home. You are introducing the subconscious to a new truth about yourself. Be patient, but be faithful. And if you fall asleep before finishing your scene, do not be troubled. Often that is best. If you drift into sleep while feeling even a little more relieved, a little more settled, a little more provided for than before, the impression has begun. Sleep is not an interruption to the work. Sleep is where the seed is carried deeper. Let drowsiness serve you. Let the borderland between waking and sleep become sacred to you. Enter it with relief. Enter it with ease. Enter it as one who has accepted the answer within. I tell you, the world changes most easily for the one whose feeling has changed. When the feeling changes, your words need less effort. Your reactions begin to change. Your decisions become clearer. Your inner conversations become gentler and more powerful. You stop praying as one abandoned and begin resting as one sustained. This is the true beginning of financial freedom. Not money first and peace afterward, but peace first and the outer reordering in due season. So if you remember nothing else from this portion, remember this and carry it into the night. The subconscious responds to the feeling of reality. Give it the feeling of fulfilled provision. Give it the feeling of relief. Give it the feeling of quiet certainty. Let your final inward act before sleep be not fear, but release. Not pressure, but peace. Not pleading, but possession. Feel the relief now. Feel the burden lifted. Feel it as done. And as this feeling grows natural in you, sleep itself becomes the golden doorway through which the state is impressed, and the outer world begins to bend. Now I bring you to the golden doorway itself, the hour and the condition in which this work becomes easiest, most natural, and most fruitful. Many hear of imagination and try to practice it in the heat of the day, while the senses are loud, while reason argues, while memory protests, and habit pulls them back into old reactions. It can be done then, yes, but there is a holier moment, a softer moment, a more yielding moment. It is the moment just before sleep, when the body grows still, the senses dim, and the mind begins to loosen its hard grip upon the facts of the day. This is what I speak of when I describe the state akin to sleep. I do not ask you to burden yourself with complicated terms. I ask only that you notice that borderland which every man and woman passes through each night. It is that sweet interval when you are not fully awake and not yet fully asleep. You are aware, but softened. You can still direct the mind, but without strain. The body is heavy. The breath is slower. Thoughts lose their sharpness. This is the doorway. Why is this state so powerful? Because resistance is weaker there. In the waking state, the mind often argues. It says, how can this be? It says, what of the bills? It says, what of the facts? It says, this is too much, too soon, too unlikely. But as drowsiness comes, the guard at the door begins to relax. The reasoning mind is not gone, but it is quieter. The surface man loosens. The deeper mind becomes more available, more receptive, more willing to accept impression. You are no longer pushing against the day. You are entering the workshop of creation. And I tell you, if you learn to use these last minutes before sleep wisely, you may transform your life without outward struggle. For most men and women go to sleep in the very state they do not want. They lie down and rehearse debt. They count obligations. They relive humiliations. They imagine tomorrow's pressure. They feel again the burden they wish to escape. Then they sleep in that feeling, and the subconscious receives that impression and faithfully reproduces it. The law is not cruel, it is simply faithful. So I say to you, and let this line sink deep into you tonight, do not go to sleep in debt. If you can go to sleep in the feeling of freedom, do not go to sleep in debt. If you can go to sleep in the feeling of freedom, I mean not that you deny the world foolishly, but that you understand cause and effect. Debt, as a fact, belongs to the shadow world of past assumptions. Freedom, as a feeling, may be planted now as the cause of tomorrow's rearrangement. If you must choose what to carry through the gate of sleep, carry freedom. Let me guide you now, as I would guide you in the quiet of night. Lie down in a manner natural to you. Do not make a ceremony out of discomfort. Let the body rest. Let your limbs become still. Feel the weight of the body upon the bed. Feel the support beneath you. Let the shoulders soften. Let the hands rest easily. Let the jaw unclench. Let the tongue relax. Let the eyes remain closed gently, not tightly. Allow the body to grow heavy, pleasantly heavy, as though it is being received by the bed. Now let the breathing slow. Do not force it. Do not perform for yourself. Simply notice the breath and allow it to lengthen a little. A quiet inhale, a gentle exhale. Again. Let the exhale carry the day away. Let each breath release argument. Let each breath release urgency. Let each breath say, without words, I am safe enough now to be still. This softening is not separate from the imaginal act. It prepares the soil. It opens the gate. As the breath grows quieter and the body grows heavier, the mind too can be invited into quietness. Do not fight every thought. If thoughts of the day arise, let them pass. If fear presents itself, do not wrestle with it. Return gently to your chosen aim. Return gently to the feeling of being provided for. Return gently to the sense of relief. In this borderland, gentleness wins more than force. The subconscious receives what is impressed with feeling, not what is shouted with strain. Now when you feel that drowsy softness beginning, that sweet drifting, that sense that sleep is near, choose one short imaginal scene. 1. Keep it simple. Simplicity goes deeper than complexity. Do not attempt to imagine the whole drama of how money came, who called, what happened first, what happened next, and how all things were arranged. That is too much for the surface mind, and it quickly becomes effort. Choose the end, and choose it in a small, vivid moment. Perhaps your scene is this. You are in bed, or just awakened, and you say quietly, it is such a relief, I am financially free. Feel the words as yours. Hear them in your own voice, not as a speech, but as a natural utterance. Perhaps your scene is a friend's hand in yours, and the words, I am so happy for you, you are free now. Feel the grip of the hand. Hear the tone. Let it be brief. Perhaps your scene is you opening a letter and seeing the words that imply the burden is gone. Perhaps it is the simple act of paying a bill with complete ease and no contraction in the body. Any one short scene that implies the wish fulfilled is enough. And now this is vital. Enter the scene in the first person. Do not watch yourself from a distance, as though you were watching a play. Be in the scene. See through your own eyes. Hear through your own ears. Feel through your own body. If you are holding a paper, feel its texture between your fingers. If someone congratulates you, hear the voice near you. If you speak, hear your own voice as though you truly speak now. The subconscious responds to lived experience and imagination, not to detached observation. Use the senses quietly. Let them be active but not strained. Hear the tone, feel the touch, sense the room, feel the ease in the chest, feel the burden gone. This is enough. You need not decorate it. You need not make it grand. In fact, the shorter and more natural the scene, the more easily you can repeat it without fatigue. A few seconds of fulfilled experience, repeated gently, can impress the subconscious more deeply than a long and restless effort. Repeat the scene gently, not forcefully. This is not a contest of will. You are not trying to overpower the mind. You are lulling the deeper self with a fulfilled impression. Repeat the scene as one rocks a child to sleep, tenderly, rhythmically, without violence. If you lose the scene, return to it quietly. If you drift away, come back softly. If the mind protests, do not stop to argue. Return to the scene. Return to the feeling. Return to the relief. Repeat gently. And as you repeat it, let the feeling deepen. Not excitement necessarily, but possession. Not intensity, but reality. Let it feel less like imagination and more like memory. Let it feel as though this has already happened. Let your body respond to it. Let your breath remain slow. Let the chest soften. Let the face become peaceful. Let there be that inward sigh that says, "Thank God, it is done." If gratitude rises, let it rise. If stillness rises, let it rise. If all you feel is a little less fear and a little more ease, that too is a real movement. Honor it. Then if sleep comes while you are in the scene, let it take you. This is the ideal. Fall asleep in possession, not in longing. Fall asleep in relief, not in pressure. Fall asleep in the feeling of financial freedom, not in the rehearsal of debt. Fall asleep as one who has accepted the answer inwardly. You do not need to complete the scene 10 times or 20 times. You do not need to finish perfectly. What matters is the feeling with which you cross the threshold. Do you see why this drowsy state is so powerful? Because in that state, the impression sinks deeper. The guard at the door relaxes. The day's arguments fade. The subconscious receives what the waking mind might resist. That is why I say, the last moments before sleep are sacred. They are not idle minutes to be wasted in fear. They are creative minutes. They are planting time. They are the hour in which a new financial life may be seeded in consciousness. I want to speak now to the one who says, "But when I lie down, my mind races. I think of all I must do. I cannot seem to become quiet." Then begin not with the scene, but with the body. Let the body teach the mind. Feel the heaviness of the legs. Feel the bed under your back. Feel the breath slowing. Say inwardly, "Now I release the day." Say, "Now I let the body grow heavy." Say, "Now I enter rest." Then when some quietness comes, even a little, bring in your short imaginal scene. Do not demand perfection. Use what is given. Each night, practice makes the doorway easier to enter. And if you wake in the night, this too may be used. Many wake for a moment and immediately return to worry. Instead, use the half-waking state as a second doorway. In that softened condition, repeat your short scene again. Feel the relief again. Fall back asleep in possession again. These are hidden opportunities. The night itself can become your ally if you understand the law. Now let me guide the process once more in a slow and simple way, so it may be absorbed deeply. Lie down. Let the body grow heavy. Let the breathing slow. Let the mind become quiet enough. Choose one short scene that implies financial freedom is already true. Enter it in the first person. See through your own eyes. Hear through your own ears. Feel with your own hands. Repeat gently. Feel the relief. Feel the burden lifted. Feel it as done. Then let sleep take you while you are in that state. Do not make the mistake of trying to force the means. Do not go into the state akin to sleep to ask, "How will it come? Through whom? By what road?" That is not your work. Your work is to plant the end. The bridge of incidents belongs to the deeper wisdom of the subconscious. It may come by channels you did not foresee. It may come more naturally than your anxious mind would ever permit itself to imagine. Plant the end. Feel the end. Sleep in the end. And let this line become one of the strong pillars of your practice, one you return to again and again, especially when fear tempts you to rehearse lack before sleep. Do not go to sleep in debt if you can go to sleep in the feeling of freedom. I repeat it because repetition impresses. Do not go to sleep in debt if you can go to sleep in the feeling of freedom. Carry freedom through the gate. Carry relief through the gate. Carry provision through the gate. The subconscious will receive what you carry. When this becomes your nightly habit, something begins to change in the very texture of your life. Sleep becomes less a collapse into exhaustion and more a descent into creation. Night becomes not a place of worry, but a sanctuary of planting. You begin to look forward to the hour, not because you are escaping life, but because you are consciously shaping it. And even before outer evidence appears, you will notice inward evidence. More peace, less panic, more steadiness, less compulsion to fear tomorrow. This is the sign that the seed is being received. So tonight, when the room grows quiet and the body seeks rest, remember what I have told you. The drowsy state is the golden chamber. The guard at the door will relax. The last impression matters. Choose it. Make it simple. Make it real. Make it yours. Enter one short scene in the first person. Repeat gently, feel the relief of already being free, and sleep there. Sleep there as though your financial freedom were not a future hope, but a present possession in consciousness. Do not go to sleep in debt. If you can, go to sleep in the feeling of freedom. And if you do this faithfully, night after night, the world of day will begin to mirror the state you have planted in the womb of sleep. Now let us do it together, and do it quietly, simply, without strain. Do not concern yourself with doing it perfectly. You are not being examined, you are being led inward. If you are lying down as you listen, let the body remain where it is. Let it be supported, let it be held. If there is any part of you still trying to manage the day, let that part rest now. The day is done. Whatever was spoken is spoken. Whatever was left unfinished may wait. This moment is not for the world. This moment is for the inner man. I would have you begin by allowing the body to grow a little heavier. Not by force, but by permission. Feel the weight of your head. Feel the shoulders softening. Let the arms rest. Let the hands become still. Let the muscles of the face grow quiet. There is no one to impress here. There is nothing to perform. You may simply rest. Let the breath come and go in its own rhythm. And with each gentle exhale, let the day recede a little farther from you. If thoughts come, let them come and pass. If memories of bills, conversations, obligations, or worries rise before the mind, do not wrestle with them. I would not have you fight shadows. I would have you turn toward the light. Let each thought pass as though it belongs to an earlier hour. You need not solve anything now. You need not calculate, plan, defend, or explain. This hour is not for figuring out. This hour is for receiving. This hour is for planting. Say inwardly, if it helps you, in a tone so soft that it feels like a whisper in your own chest, I release this day. I release the pressure of this day. I release the burden of this day. I do not carry it into sleep. Let those words be gentle, not dramatic. Let them be like a hand laid tenderly upon the heart. Again, in your own way, I release this day. I release the burden. I release the effort. I enter rest. Now as the body grows more still, I want you to begin to feel, not yet imagine in detail, but feel that there is nothing pressing upon you in this moment. Not one demand can enter here unless you admit it. Not one fear has authority in this chamber of imagination unless you crown it. And tonight, you do not crown fear. Tonight, you crown fulfillment. Tonight, you choose peace before proof, and by doing so, you set the law in motion. Feel the chest soften. Feel the breath move more easily. If there has been a long strain, a long season of pressure, imagine now that the strain is beginning to melt away as ice melts beneath warm light. You need not force relief, you need only allow it. Let the idea come to you that you are safe enough now to rest in the feeling of being provided for. Safe enough now to stop rehearsing lack. Safe enough now to receive a new impression. And now, very gently, let a simple scene begin to form. Do not make it elaborate. I am not asking for a grand vision. I am asking for a short, living moment that implies the burden is over. Perhaps you see yourself seated at a table, and before you are the bills that once troubled you. But now, in this scene, there is no contraction in the body. There is no fear. You reach for them calmly, one by one, and each is paid with ease. Feel the movement of your hand. Feel the paper. Feel the quiet certainty in you. No panic, no strain, only the simple, natural action of one for whom it is all covered. Or perhaps your scene is even simpler. You hear a voice, kind, steady, reassuring. say to you, it's all covered. Let those words come as though spoken to you now. It's all covered. Hear them again. It's all covered. And notice what happens in the body when those words are truly received. The shoulders drop, the chest opens, the jaw softens, the breath deepens. Let your body respond. Let the relief be real. Let it move through you. Perhaps your scene is that of opening an account book or statement and seeing not scarcity, but abundance. You need not fixate on numbers. You need not make it exact if that creates strain. See only what implies freedom. Enough and more than enough. A sense of margin. A sense of room. The sense that there is no immediate threat, no pressure at the door, no inner cry of not enough. You look, and instead of tightening, you feel calm. Instead of fear, you feel ease. Instead of urgency, you feel gratitude rising naturally, softly, almost like a sigh. Or perhaps you hear congratulations. A friend, a loved one, someone whose words would feel real to you says, I am so happy for you, you're free now. You've come through it. Hear the tone, let it be near. Feel the warmth of the voice. Maybe there is a hand upon your shoulder. Maybe there is an embrace. Feel that moment as though it is happening now. Do not watch it from a distance. Be there. Hear it. Feel it. Receive it. And if none of these scenes feels natural, choose the simplest of all, the feeling in your own chest after long strain has ended. That deep, quiet peace. That inward release. That moment when the body no longer braces. The mind no longer races. The heart no longer rehearses. The next blow. The burden has lifted, and you know it. Not because someone told you to pretend, but because in this imaginal act it is done. Feel that peace now. Feel the burden lifted. Feel it as done. Stay there. There is nothing else to do. Let the scene be short. Let it repeat softly, like a lullaby, paying with ease. It's all covered. Seeing abundance, hearing congratulations, feeling peace after strain. Choose one, and remain with it. Repeat gently, not forcefully. If the mind wanders, return without annoyance. Return as one returns to a beloved room. Return to the same moment, the same tone, the same sense of relief. As you remain in it, let me remind you of the truth beneath this practice. You are not trying to create by effort. You are impressing the subconscious through feeling. The feeling is the secret. The feeling of being already provided for. The feeling of financial freedom, not as excitement, but as settled possession. Let that feeling become more real than today's shadows. Let it be so natural that your body begins to accept it without argument. If fear rises and says, but what of tomorrow? Do not answer with struggle. Answer with your scene. Answer with your feeling. Hear again. It's all covered. Pay again with ease. See again the sign of abundance. Hear again the congratulations. Feel again the peace in the chest. Let the old question be met by a new state. This is how the law is applied. Not by debate, but by assumption. Now let the repetition grow even softer, as though you are drifting and the scene remains with you. As though the scene is no longer something you are making, but something you are remembering. Let the relief settle into the body. Let the breath carry it deeper. Let the heart rest in it. Let the mind stop straining toward the means. You do not need to know how. You need only sleep in the end. Feel this now. The long pressure is over. The inward struggle is over. The money is no longer an enemy in your mind. The fear of tomorrow has loosened its grip. You are provided for. You are supported. You are free enough to rest. You are free enough to sleep. And because you can feel this now, you are planting the very cause of its outpicturing. If gratitude comes, let it come quietly. Not as a technique, not as a repeated phrase spoken from desperation. Let it come as the natural breath of one who has already received. A simple, inward, thank you. A soft, it is done. A quiet, how wonderful. Let it be gentle. Let it be real. Let it be yours. Remain in your chosen scene just a little longer. Do not hurry. Let the body be heavy. Let the breathing be slow. Let the mind be quiet enough. Let the scene repeat with ease. Let the feeling deepen without force. Feel the relief now. Feel the burden lifted. Feel it as done. Again, feel the relief now. Feel the burden lifted. Feel it as done. And if sleep draws near, let it take you in this state. Let the last movement of mind be one of freedom, one of provision, one of quiet financial peace. Fall asleep not in argument, but in acceptance, not in fear, but in fulfillment, not in debt consciousness, but in the feeling of freedom. For what you carry through the gate of sleep, the deeper self receives, and what it receives in feeling, it will in time express in the world of day. So rest now in that inwardly completed life. Rest in the calm of being provided for. Rest in the ease of all being covered. Rest in the peace that comes after long strain. Rest in the congratulations. Rest in abundance. Rest in freedom. And let the night do its work. Now let me take you one step deeper, for there is a principle here so simple and so exact that once you truly grasp it, much of your struggle will fall away. Many men and women can accept, at least in part, that money brings a certain feeling. They know this by experience. They say, if I had enough, I would feel relief. If the burden were lifted, I would feel peace. If the debt were gone, I would sleep easily. They understand this direction of movement very well. They understand the outer fact producing the inner feeling, but they stop there. And because they stop there, they remain servants of conditions. I tell you, the law does not move in one direction only. The law is reversible. If the condition called money can produce relief, then relief, genuinely assumed and felt as present, can produce the condition called money or its equivalent. If the paid bill brings peace, then peace assumed now can bring the paid bill. If financial freedom would bring ease to your chest and quiet to your mind, then that ease and quiet, accepted now as your state, can and must call forth the world that corresponds to it. This is where many awaken. This is where the mind suddenly sees why waiting has kept them bound. They have been saying, in effect, when the money comes, I shall feel free. And in saying that, they place freedom forever on the far side of circumstance. They put cause after effect. They make the world the master and consciousness the servant. They postpone the inner state until the outer gives permission. But the outer never initiates. It reflects. It answers. It echoes. Therefore, to wait for money before feeling free is to wait for the mirror to move before you move. I would have you reverse it tonight, and reverse it with understanding, not merely with words. Do not say it as a phrase only. See the law in operation. If wealth would make you breathe more deeply, breathe more deeply now. If provision would soften your body, let the body soften now. If being secure would quiet the mind, begin to quiet the mind now. Not because you are pretending the facts are different, but because you are claiming the only cause there is your own state of consciousness. You see this principle in many realms of life, though men rarely recognize it. A message of good news can bring joy to the heart. Very well. Then joy entered inwardly, before the message arrives, can bring the message or its equivalent. A loving embrace can produce a feeling of peace. Very well. Then, peace, assumed now, can draw forth the embrace, or whatever outer condition symbolizes that peace. The law is not mocked. It is not confused. It is exact. It responds to the inner state as cause and the outer fact as effect. Now apply this to money with precision. Do not become entangled in the symbol. Men say money, but what they often seek is not paper, not coin, not figures written in a ledger. They seek relief. They seek room to breathe. They seek release from pressure. They seek the ease of not being pursued by necessity. They seek the dignity of provision. They seek the feeling that all is well. If this is what money represents to you, then go to the feeling directly. Do not stand at the door begging the symbol to grant you the state. Enter the state, and the symbol will follow. This is why I say to you, do not wait to be free to feel free. Feel free, and the condition called freedom must begin to appear. Do not wait to be secure, to feel secure. Feel secure, and the channels of security will open. Do not wait for the burden to be lifted before you breathe as one relieved. Breathe as one relieved, and life will move toward the pattern that justifies that breath. Some will hear this and say, but is that not backwards? Yes, it is backwards to the senses, but it is forwards to the law. The senses tell you the fact is first, and the feeling follows. The law tells you the feeling is first, and the fact follows. The senses say, show me, and I will believe. The law says, believe, and you shall see. This is not poetry. This is mechanics. This is the way consciousness externalizes itself. When I speak of feeling first, I do not mean forced excitement. I do not mean emotional display. I do not mean pretending to be thrilled when inwardly you are frightened. I mean something much deeper and much more powerful. The quiet assumption of relief, the inward acceptance of being provided for, the natural sense that the matter is settled. This is the feeling that impresses the subconscious. It is not noise, but conviction. It is not volume, but reality. Consider the one who says, I am financially free, yet inwardly feels hunted, cornered, pressed. The words may be correct, but the feeling contradicts them, and the subconscious accepts the feeling. Then consider another who speaks very little, but each night enters the sensation of the burden lifted, the work completed, the provision made. The body softens, the heart gives thanks naturally, and sleep receives the impression. Which of these has planted the true seed? The one who felt it. Always the one who felt it. So I ask you now, and ask you gently, what is the feeling you imagine money would give you? Do not answer too quickly with the mind. Listen inwardly. Is it relief? Is it safety? Is it ease? Is it dignity? Is it the quiet joy of knowing there is enough and more than enough? Is it the ability to bless others without fear? Is it rest? Is it simple, blessed rest? Whatever it is, that feeling is your doorway. That feeling is the state. That feeling assumed now is the cause. Take relief, for example, since relief is one of the great wealth feelings and one of the most accessible. You need not wait for a windfall to know what relief feels like. You have felt it in little things all your life. A letter expected and at last received. A pain passing. A debt remembered and then discovered paid. A danger avoided. A burden shared. You know the bodily language of relief. The exhale, the loosening, the softening of the chest, the quieting of thought. Since you know it, you can assume it. Since you can assume it, you can use it. Since you can use it, you can let the law work through it. And once you understand this, you cease postponing your life. That is one of the great mercies of this principle. Men postpone peace, postpone joy, postpone rest, postpone gratitude, saying, when this changes, I shall feel differently. But in doing so, they remain faithful to the old state and call forth its image again and again. They do not know they are waiting at the wrong end of the chain. Reverse the chain. Enter the feeling now. Let the fact come as the shadow it must be. Do not misunderstand me. I am not saying to deny your present obligations in a foolish way. I am saying do not grant them the power of first cause. Pay what must be paid, do what must be done, but inwardly refuse to take your emotional tone from appearances. Refuse to let the unpaid bill dictate your identity. Refuse to let temporary figures define your state. You are not the ledger. You are the consciousness that gives meaning to the ledger. Change the consciousness, and the figures, in time, must reflect the change. This is why I tell you again, and I would have you hear it deeply. Do not wait to be free to feel free. Feel free, quietly, inwardly, naturally, and let the world catch up. Do not wait for proof to feel relief. Feel relief now, and proof will come. Do not wait for abundance to feel provided for. Feel provided for now, and channels of abundance will open. Now let us make this plain in the language of daily life. A man says, if I received an unexpected check, I would finally relax. Very well. Let him enter relaxation now, not as laziness, but as the settled sense that provision is already on the way and inwardly accepted. A woman says, If this pressure were lifted, I could sleep in peace. Very well. Let her sleep in peace tonight. Not because the senses confirm it, but because she now knows peace is cause, and the lifting of pressure is effect. Another says, if I were financially free, I would stop fearing tomorrow. Very well. Let him stop feeding tomorrow with fear, and begin feeding it with the feeling of present freedom. Each one who does this knowingly begins to operate the law in reverse, and in truth, in the only correct direction from consciousness outward. The beauty of this principle is that it gives you something immediate to do. You need not wait for tomorrow's mail, next week's opportunity, another man's decision, or some outward sign. You can assume the desired feeling now. You can become the cause now. You can cease postponing the fragrance of fulfillment and wear it tonight. And in doing so, you do not merely comfort yourself. You impress the subconscious with a new state, and that state must externalize. There is a kind of noble discipline required here, and it is this: whenever the mind says, I shall feel better when the money comes, answer inwardly, no, I feel better now, and the money or its equivalent follows, not as a battle cry, but as a correction of order. Each time you restore the order, you strengthen the new state. Each time you choose relief over rehearsal of lack, you plant. Each time you choose inward freedom over emotional slavery to appearances, you plant. And the harvest is according to the seed. You may also begin to see why some receive money and yet remain in fear. They receive the symbol, but not the state. They obtain the outer effect, but did not revise the inner cause. Therefore they lose, squander, or recreate pressure, because the old feeling remains active. But the one who first assumes the feeling of provision, dignity, ease, and inward freedom may receive by 1,000 channels and will keep creating, because he has changed at the root. He has not merely acquired a symbol, he has entered a state, and so I would have you test this, not someday, but in the very hours ahead. Ask yourself quietly before sleep, if I were financially free this night, what would I feel in my body? How would I breathe? What tone would fill my chest? What would become impossible to worry about? Then assume that feeling now. Enter it now. Rest in it now. Let it be gentle. Let it be real. Let it be enough. The law requires no theatrics. It requires acceptance. Feel the relief first, and the condition that men call money must begin to mirror it. Feel the burden lifted first, and the outer world will arrange the means by which it appears lifted. Feel provided for first, and life will bring the form of provision. This is the reversibility of cause and effect in the realm of consciousness. This is the science of prayer, as I teach it. This is why feeling is not the reward at the end, but the seed at the beginning. So stop postponing the state. Stop placing peace on the far side of proof. Stop saying, when I have, then I shall be. Be first, and having follows. Feel first, and fact follows. Enter freedom first, and the world will learn to speak your new language. Let this sink into you as you listen and drift. I do not wait to be free to feel free. I feel free, and freedom takes form. I do not wait to be relieved to feel relief. I feel relief, and relief is mirrored in my world. I do not wait for money to give me peace. I assume peace, and the channels of money open. This is law. This is order. This is the royal road. And once you see it, you need never again place your emotional life in the hands of circumstance. You may use circumstance, enjoy circumstance, bless circumstance, but you need not bow to it. You are the operant power. You choose the feeling. The feeling becomes the state. The state becomes the fact. And the world, faithful as a mirror, reflects what you have dared to feel as true. Now listen carefully, for this is where many lose heart, not because the law failed them, but because they did not understand what follows the planting. A man may enter the state, feel it real, sleep in the assumption, and rise the next morning expecting the entire world to have changed at once. He looks about, sees the same room, the same letters, the same obligations, the same faces, and he says within himself, nothing has happened. And in that moment, If he is not watchful, he abandons the very seed he planted the night before. I tell you, the moment the seed is planted, movement begins. It may not yet be visible to the senses, but movement begins. The law does not wait for your eyes to approve it. The subconscious does not require your constant inspection. The unseen arrangement starts the moment the impression is accepted. The bridge of incidence begins then, not later. It begins in silence. It begins beneath the surface. It begins in ways no reasoning mind could trace in advance. This is why I would spare you anxiety by giving you understanding. After you have assumed the feeling of financial freedom, after you have entered sleep in relief, after you have planted the seed of provision, your work is not to dig up the ground every hour to see whether it has sprouted. Your work is to remain faithful to the end. Your part is the assumption. The unfolding is not your burden. Hear that deeply, for many need that line more than any technique. Your part is the assumption. The unfolding is not your burden. If you try to carry both, you will weary yourself. If you assume and then attempt to manage every channel, dictate every person, control every timing, and force every step, you return to strain and leave the state of fulfilled desire. You step out of faith and back into fear. But if you know that the law, once set in motion, unfolds through a bridge of incidents, then you can rest inwardly while life rearranges itself. Now, what is this bridge? It is the chain of events, meetings, delays, opportunities, seeming interruptions, chance remarks, forgotten contacts, altered plans, and unexpected turnings through which your assumption externalizes itself. It may be so natural that, unless you are awake to the law, you will call it coincidence. Yet, there is no coincidence in the deeper sense. There is only the outpicturing of the state you have accepted. The bridge appears ordinary, while performing an extraordinary office. It carries you from the unseen act to the seen result. A man imagines himself financially free and falls asleep in that feeling. The next day he receives no check, no dramatic sign, no immediate proof. Instead, he is delayed in going somewhere and meets a person unexpectedly. A conversation follows. That conversation leads to an introduction. The introduction leads to a piece of work, an idea, a settlement, a forgotten account, a profitable association, or a solution he could not have planned. Looking backward, the chain becomes clear. Looking forward, it could not have been designed by his reason. That chain is the bridge. Another may assume the end, and then, strangely enough, see what appears to be the opposite. A plan falls through. A door closes. A familiar channel dries up. If that one judges by appearances alone, he says, the law has failed me. But if he understands the bridge, he remains calm and says, no, I do not yet see the whole pattern. And often what looked like denial was redirection. What looked like loss was release. What looked like delay was arrangement. The law was not opposing him. It was leading him by a road he would not have chosen, but which led more directly to the end. This is why signs can be misleading when they are worshipped instead of understood. Some men look for signs every hour. They interpret every little thing as proof or disproof. If a pleasant thing happens, they say, it is working. If an unpleasant thing happens, they say, I have lost it. In this way they become unstable and remain servants of appearances. I would have you wiser than that. Let signs come and go. Let small confirmations encourage you if they come. But do not build your faith upon them. Build your faith upon the state. Build it upon the assumption accepted in consciousness. For signs are fragments, while the end is the whole. When you plant a seed, the first visible movement is not always the fruit. There may be weather, there may be wind, there may be a season of no visible change, yet beneath the soil, the process is active. So too in this law, the bridge may look quiet. It may look slow. It may even look confused to the senses. But the bridge is not built for the senses to admire as it forms. It is built to bring you to the end. Therefore, do not demand that every step look pleasing. Demand only that you remain faithful to the state you chose. Many abandon their assumption because they secretly bargain with time. They say, I shall believe for 2 nights, perhaps 3. And if by then I do not see proof, I shall conclude it does not work. But this is not faith. This is a test given to the senses, and the senses are poor judges of beginnings. The law is not mocked by impatience, but impatience can pull you out of the state. If you assume today and tomorrow you return to fear, then assume again. If anxiety rises, do not condemn yourself. Return to the end. The bridge is not broken because a thought of doubt appeared. It is delayed only to the degree you abandon the state and make anxiety your dwelling place. So I would teach you what to do the morning after you plant. Rise, and before you consult appearances, remember what you did. Remember the relief you accepted. Remember the scene you entered. Remember the feeling of it is done. Carry that tone into the day quietly, not with strain, not with forced speech. Simply refuse to surrender your inner freedom to outer evidence. If no sign appears, remain faithful. If a sign appears, remain faithful. If an opposite appearance appears, remain faithful. In every case, remain faithful to the end. And what is the end in this matter? Not how the money comes, not through whom, not on what date, not by what instrument, but the fulfilled state itself, financially free, provided for, relieved, inwardly secure. That is the end. The means belong to the bridge. The bridge belongs to the wisdom of the deeper self. The subconscious can weave channels your waking mind does not know. It may come through compensation, opportunity, restored business, assistance, release from expense, new work, changed terms, gifts, ideas, recoveries, or events. So natural you almost miss the miracle hidden in their sequence. Do not dictate the how. I cannot say this too often. The moment you insist, it must come this one way. You narrow the channel and set your reason against the law. You may even reject the answer, because it wears a different garment than the one you imagined. Assume the essence and leave the garment to the law. Assume freedom and let freedom choose its road. Assume provision and let provision choose its vessel. Assume financial peace and let life arrange the form. I have seen men hinder themselves by choosing the means instead of the end. They say, it must be this position, this debtor, this business arrangement, this transaction, this exact sequence. Then when that sequence alters, they panic. Yet if they had remained faithful to the end, they would have discovered a better channel opening beyond the collapse of the first. The bridge often disguises itself. It may begin in one direction and turn sharply. It may appear to wander and yet be direct. Trust it. The subconscious is a wiser arranger than your surface mind, and let me also say this, for the one who listens while weary and afraid. Delay is not denial. A pause is not refusal. A detour is not abandonment. If the seed has been planted in feeling, and you continue to dwell in the end, the law is working whether you feel movement or not. The bridge is forming whether you can name it or not. You need not hear the machinery to know the mill is turning. You need only remain in the state of fulfilled desire. When anxious thoughts come, and at times they will do not wrestle them endlessly, meet them with understanding. Say within yourself, the movement has already begun. I need not see all steps. My part is the assumption. The unfolding is not my burden. Let that become a restful answer. Let it quiet the demand for immediate proof. Let it return you to the state. This is how you persist without strain, not by fighting every thought, but by returning to the end, again and again, until it feels natural to stay there. There is great peace in this once understood. You stop trying to force tomorrow from today. You stop measuring progress by appearances alone. You stop wounding yourself with hourly inspection. Instead, you become like one who has posted a letter with certainty. You do not run after the messenger all night. You know it has been sent. In the same way, once you have impressed the subconscious, you rest in the certainty that the message is on its way into fact. You continue to live, to act, to do what is before you, but inwardly you remain aligned with the end. And if tomorrow brings something unexpected, do not be too quick to name it enemy or ally. Watch with a deeper eye. It may be part of the bridge. A postponed meeting may place you in the right room. An inconvenience may introduce the right person. A closed path may force you onto the one that leads more directly to provision. An old matter may rise again because it is now the channel through which your answer comes. Remain inwardly steady. Let the bridge reveal itself in time. You are not asked to foresee the path. You are asked to assume the end. You are not asked to manage the thousand details. You are asked to remain faithful to the state. You are not asked to force the world. You are asked to change your consciousness and let the world reflect it. This is simpler than the anxious mind believes, but it requires trust. Not trust in chance, not trust in outer men, trust in the law, trust in imagination rightly directed, trust in the seed once planted. So if, after this night, you wake and the old world seems unchanged, do not surrender. Do not say, it was only words. Return to the feeling. Return to the scene. Return to the inner freedom. If the day appears noisy, return inwardly. If fear whispers, return inwardly. If no evidence yet appears, return inwardly. Each return is persistence. Each return waters the seed. Each return keeps you on the end while the bridge unfolds. And I would leave this in your heart as a steadying truth for the hours and days that follow. The movement has already begun. You may not yet call the roll of events by name, but the movement has already begun. The bridge may look like coincidence, delay, redirection, or ordinary life. Yet beneath its plain appearance, the law is fulfilling itself. Therefore remain loyal to the fulfilled state. Keep faith with the end. Let the unfolding come in its own wisdom. Your part is the assumption. The unfolding is not your burden. Hold that, and you will not abandon the seed through anxiety. Hold that, and you will walk tomorrow with a quieter mind. Hold that. And when the harvest appears, whether by expected or unexpected channels, you will recognize it not as luck, but as the faithful outpicturing of the state you dared to assume. And now, having understood the bridge, I would carry you into a deeper quietness. For knowledge alone is not enough unless it settles into your very nervous system and becomes a living calm within you. Many can repeat the law with the lips and yet tremble in the body. They can say, I know imagination creates reality, and still lie awake counting burdens. So let me speak to you now in a gentler rhythm, that the truth may descend from the surface mind into the depths where sleep receives it. I would have you understand that financial freedom, as I use the phrase, is not merely the possession of money. It is a release in consciousness. It is the ending of inward bondage. There are men with much money who are inwardly poor, because they live in fear of loss. And there are those who, before the visible evidence arrives, have already entered such an inward state of ease that life begins at once to mirror that freedom. Therefore seek first the inward release. Seek first the quiet certainty. Seek first the state in which provision feels natural to you. The outer form will follow. And when it follows, you will be able to keep it, for it will rest upon a changed foundation. Let me say this tenderly, to the one who has lived too long under pressure. You are not wrong because you have been afraid. You are not a failure because you have worried. You are not disqualified because necessity has pressed hard upon you. The law is not a harsh master keeping score of your bad moments. It is an impersonal law, and because it is impersonal, you may begin again this very night. You may begin again this very breath. The past state need not be your dwelling forever. The old fear need not be your identity. You may lay it down and put on another state. Do not make a religion of your former struggles. Do not bow before old facts as though they were eternal gods. Facts are but the delayed expression of former states. They are yesterday made visible. If you would live differently tomorrow, do not worship what is visible today. Change the state. Change the inner conversation. Change the feeling tone in which you fall asleep. This is the creative act. This is prayer in its true sense. This is how a man ceases to be a servant of circumstance and becomes the operant power in his own world. I know how quickly the mind tries to return to numbers, deadlines, obligations, and all the symbols of pressure. The mind says, yes, but what about this payment? What about that letter? What about the thing due next week? And I do not tell you to deny that these things exist in the world of fact. I tell you rather to deny them the right to define your inner state. You may attend to what is before you in the day, but you need not kneel inwardly to it. You need not become it. You need not sleep in it. You need not make a home in fear, because fear has knocked at your door. The discipline is not in pretending the world has no appearances. The discipline is in refusing to take appearances as final. This is a very different thing. If a bill lies on the table, let it lie there, but do not let it move into your imagination as Lord and Master. Instead, pay it there first. Pay it in consciousness. Feel the ease of seeing it handled. Feel the relief of saying, it is taken care of. Feel the body softening, because the burden is lifted. Do this not once in panic, but quietly, repeatedly, naturally, until the inward act feels more real than the paper before your eyes. You see, the world has taught man to wait for evidence before he grants himself peace. He says, when the money comes, then I shall rest. When the account rises, then I shall feel safe. When all is solved, then I shall breathe. But this is to place the cause after the effect. It is to live in reverse. I tell you, breathe now, rest now, feel safety now, assume provision now. Not because the senses approve, but because consciousness is the only reality, and the outer world is but its delayed shadow. If tonight you can lie down and feel, even for a little while, that you are already provided for, already carried, already released from strain, you have done more for tomorrow than hours of anxious thinking could ever do. Anxious thought repeats the old state. It digs deeper the channel of fear. But one imaginal act, felt as real, opens a new channel. One true moment of inward relief plants a seed that the law must honor. One assumption accepted in drowsiness is greater than 100 frightened calculations. So now, as I speak, let this begin to become easier within you. Let the forehead uncrease. Let the jaw loosen. Let the breath stop trying to solve tomorrow. You need not solve it tonight. You need only sow. You need only choose what shall be impressed upon the subconscious as you pass into sleep. And if you choose wisely, if you choose freedom, relief, provision, gratitude, and the quiet feeling of it is done, then you are using the night as the workshop of creation. There is a tenderness in this practice that many miss because they approach it with strain. They try to force an image. They try to command a feeling with violence. They try to manufacture conviction in one dramatic moment. But the subconscious is not impressed by force. It is impressed by feeling accepted as natural. Therefore, be gentle with yourself. If the scene feels faint at first, let it be faint. If the feeling comes only in a small wave, receive the small wave. If all you can honestly feel tonight is a little less fear and a little more ease, take that as a holy beginning and continue. The seed need not be large to contain the tree. I would have you become intimate with the feeling of being financially free before the world names you. So, what is that feeling? For most, it is not wild excitement. It is not shouting. It is not shouting. It is not dramatic display. It is relief. It is quietness. It is space in the chest. It is the absence of inward pressure. It is the sense that you are no longer cornered. It is the natural ability to think of tomorrow without shrinking. It is the ease of blessing others without fear of your own lack. It is the inward statement, almost whispered, I am provided for. Stay there. Return there. Sleep there. Let that become your atmosphere. If you ask me what to feel in place of financial strain, I say feel relief. Feel the burden lifted. Feel the matter settled. Feel the room around you as the room of one whose needs are met. Feel your pillow as the pillow of one who is no longer pursued by dread. This is not fantasy in the idle sense. This is the deliberate assumption of a new state, and if persisted in, this state must harden into fact. Many think they must produce the outer fortune first, and only then they may claim the identity of the free man. I say to you, claim the identity and let fortune follow. Put on the state as you would put on a garment. Wear it inwardly. Let your silent speech agree with it. Let your reactions begin to soften into it. Let the day find you returning to it whenever old pressure rises. In this way, the state ceases to be a night exercise only and becomes a new self-concept. For self-concept is at the root of this matter. If deep within you call yourself one who is always behind, always struggling, always under the lash of necessity, then even when help comes, you will interpret life through that old lens, and often recreate the pressure. But if you begin to call yourself inwardly one who is provided for, one who is guided, one who is favored, one for whom supply appears in right ways and right time, then the root changes. And when the root changes, the fruit must change. Do not be troubled if at first the old self answers back. It may say, "'Tis not true." Of course it will say so, for it has lived long in another state. But the old self need not be argued with endlessly. Simply persist in the new claim. A new state becomes natural by occupancy. If you dwell there, night after night, day after day, it begins to feel like home. And when it feels like home, manifestations come with less effort, because you are no longer visiting the end, you are living from it. And because this is for sleep, and for those who listen while the body grows heavy, let me speak now more softly still. Let the day be over. Let every unfinished thing wait outside the chamber of sleep. Let every demand knock at the door and pass on. You are not called tonight to wrestle with outcomes. You are called to enter the inner room and assume the end. You are called to choose what shall be planted. You are called to become in feeling the one you wish to be when you rise. Imagine then, without strain, that all is well in your financial world. Not every detail explained, but all is well. Feel what that means in your body. The chest no longer tight, the stomach no longer knotted, the breath no longer shallow, the mind no longer pacing, the heart no longer braced against tomorrow. All is well. Rest in that. Let the phrase sink beyond words into sensation. All is well. I am provided for. It is taken care of. Let these not be desperate affirmations, but the natural speech of one who has received. If gratitude comes, let it come. Do not force it. True gratitude rises when possession feels real. It may be no more than a quiet thank you breathed into the pillow. That is enough. It may be a softness in the eyes. It may be a deep exhale after long strain. That too is gratitude. The subconscious hears such feeling more clearly than many words. It responds to the state, not the noise. And if you should wake in the night with fear, do not condemn yourself. Simply return. Return to the feeling of relief. Return to the scene of freedom. Return to the inward statement, "It is done." In this way, even the interruption becomes part of the practice. You are training consciousness to dwell in the end. You are teaching the body a new climate. You are giving the subconscious a new pattern to outpicture. This is faithful work, and it bears fruit. I would also remind you not to measure your progress by mood alone. Some nights, the feeling comes easily. Some nights, the old tension seems louder. Persist regardless. The law does not require perfection of emotion. It requires persistence in the chosen state. Even if tonight all you can do is refuse to go to sleep in despair, you have shifted something. Even if tonight you can feel relief for 1 minute before sleep overtakes you, you have planted, continue, and the minute becomes 5. And 5 becomes natural, and naturalness becomes fact. There is a noble simplicity to this path. You need no complicated machinery. You need no outward show. You need no witness but your own consciousness. The world may know nothing of what you are doing in the silence, and yet the silence may contain the cause of events that will astonish those who see only results. Let them see results later. Tonight you attend to causes. Tonight you turn from shadows to substance. Tonight you plant freedom. So remain with me inwardly in this understanding. You are not waiting for financial freedom to begin your peace. You begin your peace, and financial freedom follows. You are not asking the outer world for permission to feel released. You assume release, and the outer world rearranges to mirror it. You are not begging life to spare you. You are becoming the one for whom provision is natural. This is the change. This is the turning. This is the inward birth from which the outer life must be renewed. And as this sinks deeper, let a certain dignity return to you. Not pride in the worldly sense, but quiet dignity. The dignity of one who has remembered the law. The dignity of one who no longer calls himself victim of chance. The dignity of one who knows that consciousness is cause, that feeling impresses the subconscious, that sleep is a doorway, that assumption hardens into fact, and that the bridge is already forming. From that dignity comes calm. From calm comes persistence. From persistence comes manifestation. Therefore, if you listen while sleep draws near, do not struggle to hold every word. Let the feeling remain. Let the essence remain. Let this be enough tonight. I am provided for. I am released from strain. I feel the burden lifted. It is done. If you carry that into sleep, even softly, even imperfectly, you have used the night wisely. And the law, being faithful, will take what is impressed and begin to clothe it in the facts of your world. Now let us speak of the daily discipline, for many will listen tonight, fall into a beautiful quietness, and then in the morning the world will present its familiar face and try to claim them again. The letter may still come. The bill may still sit on the table. The account may still show what it showed yesterday. And if you do not understand the meaning of appearances, you will be tempted to say, nothing has changed, and in that very sentence you will return to the old state. So I tell you plainly, the discipline is not merely to assume at night, but to remain faithful by day. The facts you see are not the beginning. They are the end of something already set in motion before. They are old shadows, cast by former states. They do not have creative power in themselves. They are the outpicturing of yesterday's inner conversations, yesterday's fears, yesterday's silent agreements. Therefore, do not bow to them as though they were truth itself. They are only the echo. You are the voice. And if you change the voice, the echo must change. When a man first learns this law, he makes the common mistake of arguing with facts. He sees a troubling bank balance, and he fights it in his mind. He wrestles with it, he becomes tense and angry and frightened. But I do not teach you to argue with facts. I teach you to recognize them as shadows, and then quietly return to the state that produces the opposite shadow. You do not scold the mirror for showing you what you do not like. You change your expression. You change your position. You change the inner attitude, and the reflection must conform. So if a bill appears, let it appear. It is paper. It is a number. It is a record of a former state. You may do in the day what wisdom requires you to do, but you need not allow the bill to become an identity. That is the danger. The danger is not the paper. The danger is the state you enter when you look upon it. If you look and you feel trapped, you have entered the state of bondage again. If you look and you quietly reassume, I am provided for, it is taken care of, you remain in the new state, and the law continues its work. Do you understand what I mean? You are not denying the presence of an appearance. You are denying it the right to dictate your consciousness. You are denying it creative authority. You are saying inwardly, this is not cause, this is effect. And because you know it is effect, you refuse to plant yourself there. You refuse to dwell in the feeling of not enough. You refuse to speak from the old man. If you would be financially free, you must live as the one who is financially free, not merely in imagination at night, but in the tone of your inner speech by day. The outer world will tempt you into inner conversations that contradict your new state. It will suggest, this is hopeless. This is taking too long. You will always be behind. And the moment you accept that conversation as true, you have moved back into the old dwelling place. So be watchful, not with strain, but with loving discipline. Loving discipline is not harshness. It is not self-condemnation. It is simply the quiet refusal to entertain a story that you no longer wish to live. When the old thought rises, do not wrestle with it. Do not analyze it. Do not give it long speeches. Simply replace it. Return to the end. You may say inwardly, very calmly, that was the old state. I am no longer that man. And then you resume the feeling of provision. If you have learned one phrase well, let it be this: I am provided for. Not said like a charm, not repeated in panic, but spoken inwardly as identity tone. I am provided for. It is my nature to be supported. It is my nature to be guided. It is my nature to have sufficient supply. Let those words be less a sentence and more an atmosphere. Let them color your inner world the way sunlight colors a room. Now you will ask me, but how do I keep this when the senses are loud? I answer, you keep it by remembering that your senses report shadows, not causes. The senses are always late. They tell you what you were, not what you are becoming. And if you allow them to command your feeling, you will keep reproducing the same conditions. But if you learn to walk by inner law rather than outer sight, you will move through the day with a quiet authority that the world cannot resist. Walking by faith, as I mean it, is not an emotional frenzy. It is not pretending you are blind. It is inner loyalty. It is the decision that your assumption is the truth you will live from, regardless of what the day shows you. It is the calm persistence that says, I have planted, the bridge is forming. I remain faithful to the end. And when you remain faithful, you do not keep checking for proof. Checking is a confession that you do not believe. Checking is digging up the seed to see if it has sprouted. Leave it in the ground. Live your life. This does not mean you become careless. It means you become inwardly free. You do not spend your day rehearsing the burden. You do not keep retelling the story of pressure to yourself, to others, to anyone. For every retelling is a replanting. Every complaint is a prayer for more of the same. I tell you this not to scold, but to liberate you. If you knew the power of your inner speech, you would guard it as you would guard treasure. The inner conversation is the one you have when no one hears. It is the voice that comments on every event. It is the silent narration of your life. If you wish to know what you are creating, listen to your inner conversation. If the inner conversation is, I'm always short, then you are living in the state of shortness. If it is, something always goes wrong, you are living in the state of trouble. But if you change it to, I am always carried, I am always provided for, things work out in my favor, you begin to live in another state, and the outer world must shift to confirm it. So in the day, when you see the account, do not let the number speak louder than your assumption. Let the number be what it is, an old shadow. Then turn within and reassume. You may close your eyes for a moment, even while standing, and feel the relief of abundance. Feel what it would feel like if that account were already overflowing. Not excitement, but ease. Not drama, but calm. Then open your eyes and go on. Not as one hoping, but as one remembering what is already true in consciousness. If delays come, do not call them denial. A delay is often only a part of the bridge. The bridge of incidents may lead you by a route you did not imagine. It may rearrange things quietly before the visible change appears. The seed is not idle because you cannot yet see the sprout. If you remain faithful, the delay will lose its power to frighten you. You will say, the law is working. The bridge is moving. My part is to remain in the end. And in this way, you do not fall back into the old state. There is also a subtle trap, the temptation to demand that it come in one specific way. The man says, it must come through this job, through this person, by this date, in this exact amount. And when it does not appear exactly as demanded, he panics and assumes failure. But I tell you, do not dictate the channel. Your desire is freedom. Your desire is freedom. Your desire is provision. Your desire is ease. Leave the manner of its coming to the deeper wisdom of the subconscious. It will build the bridge better than your anxious reason ever could. When you find yourself thinking, how will it happen? Gently return to it is done. Not as a lazy statement, but as an inner fact. The how is not your burden. The how is the bridge. Your responsibility is the state. And the state, once occupied, will clothe itself in the facts of the world. If you should falter, and you may, do not make a drama of it. Do not say, I ruined everything. That is simply another assumption. You cannot ruin the law with one moment. But you can delay your own peace by deciding you are disqualified. So instead, return at once. Return as quickly and quietly as you can. The moment you catch yourself in fear, shift to relief. The moment you catch yourself in complaint, shift to gratitude. The moment you catch yourself staring at appearances as final, shift to the end as already accomplished. Let me give you a simple daily practice, though I will not set it in any rigid form. When you wake, before the day claims you, take a brief moment and feel the tone of provision. Feel as though the day is already blessed. Feel as though you are guided into right action, right timing, right meetings. Then rise and move into your duties without anxiety, because you have already chosen the state you will live from. And when you walk through the day, and the world presents its old shadows, meet them with quiet inner speech, not outward argument, not pretending. Quiet inner speech. I am provided for. It is taken care of. Things are moving in my favor. I live in freedom, and then continue. This is the loving discipline. It is the gentle persistence that makes the new state natural. As night comes again, you will find it easier to enter the state akin to sleep in possession. Because you did not spend the whole day tearing down what you planted. You did not spend the day watering the weeds. You watered the seed of freedom. And so the night becomes a continuation, not a battle. The subconscious then receives the same message by day and by night, and the outer world must reorganize itself accordingly. So I ask you to remember this one thing: whenever appearances seem loud, what you see is not what you are creating now. It is what you have created before. If you would change what you see, persist in what you are now choosing within, and choose with love, choose with calm. Choose with the quiet authority of one who knows the law. You may walk among old shadows for a little while, but you need not live in them. You may see remnants of the past state, but you need not give them your future. You may feel the pull of old fear, but you need not obey it. For you are the operant power, and your world is yourself pushed out. Change the inner state, and the outer world must, in its own appointed hour, reflect that change. Now we come to the root beneath the root, the thing most never touch. Many want a payment, a quick rescue, a single stroke that removes the pressure for a moment. And there is nothing wrong with that desire, for relief is a holy thing when you have carried strain too long. But I tell you, if you stop at a single payment, if you stop at one fortunate event, you may find yourself circling back again and again to the same fear, the same urgency, the same need. Not because life is cruel, but because the state that produced the need was never truly left behind. Money can come to a man by what the world calls chance, by an inheritance, by a sudden opportunity, by a gift, by some unexpected channel. And if that man still holds the concept of himself as one who is not safe, not supported, not favored, not meant to have enough, then even what comes will slip away like water through open fingers. He may receive today and fear tomorrow. He may gain and immediately begin to imagine loss. And the law, faithful as it is, will reflect the deeper assumption. So do not make your aim merely the event. Make your aim the state of being. You do not want money alone. You want the feeling of safety, the feeling of freedom, the feeling of being provided for. You want ease. You want the quiet confidence that life is on your side. That is why I have said to you again and again, financial freedom is first a state and then an event. The world looks at the fruit and calls it the cause. They say, if you had more money, you would be calm. But you and I now know better. Calm is not the reward. Calm is the cause. Freedom is not the result. Freedom is the seed. And the deepest form of freedom is the concept you hold of yourself, silently, habitually, without strain. What is self-concept? It is the answer you give, without speaking. When life asks, who are you? It is the feeling you carry about what is natural for you. It is the inner I am, that you wear like a garment, and the world cannot help but treat you according to the garment you put on. If a man's concept of self is, I am always behind, then even when he receives, he will spend from fear, choose from fear, speak from fear, and life will continue to mirror the story of behind. But if he changes the concept to, I am always provided for, then provision becomes his normal. He may not yet see the outer proof at once, but inwardly he has moved into a new home, and the world must, in time, furnish it. So I ask you to listen closely, because this is where wealth becomes natural, not forced. You will not always be trying to manifest the next payment, the next rescue, the next breath of relief. Instead, you become the kind of person for whom relief is ordinary. You become the one for whom doors open. You become the one for whom opportunity feels familiar. You become the one who expects favor without surprise. Do you see the difference? One man is always reaching. Another man is simply living. One is chasing the fruit. Another has changed the root. And when the root is changed, the fruit must change. Now let me speak of those phrases you mentioned, for they are not mere sentences, they are identities. I am always provided for. That is not something you say once like a charm. It is something you accept until it feels like your name. I am favored. Not in arrogance, not in comparison to another, but as a quiet recognition that life is not against you. I am the one for whom doors open. This is not superstition. It is a decision about the kind of reality you live in. Most people, unknowingly, carry the opposite. They carry, nothing works for me. It is always hard. I miss my chances. Others are lucky. I am not. And because they wear that concept, life faithfully supplies evidence, not as punishment, but as reflection. So if tonight you truly desire financial freedom, do not only imagine a sum of money. Imagine yourself as the one who naturally lives without strain. Imagine yourself moving through the day with an inner ease. Imagine paying what must be paid without the tightening in your chest. Imagine receiving what must be received without disbelief. Imagine yourself saying inwardly, with complete naturalness, of course I am provided for. This is who I am. And here is how you know you are touching the root. The new identity begins to change the way you interpret everything. A delay no longer terrifies you, because you no longer see yourself as abandoned by life. A bill no longer feels like a verdict, because you no longer see yourself as trapped. An opportunity no longer feels rare, because you have accepted that openings are normal for you. The same outer world is viewed through a new self, and that new self will inevitably call forth a new world. Let me give you a picture, simple and true. Suppose two men receive the same amount of money. One feels, this will never last. I must hold it tight. Something will take it away. The other feels, this is natural. More comes easily. I am supported. Which one do you think will experience stability? The money is the same, but the state is different, and the state is the cause. So do not be satisfied with a single manifestation if you must return to fear afterward. Do not be satisfied with a momentary windfall if your concept of self remains unsafe. Change the concept, and you will change the pattern. Then whether money comes through one channel or another, you will remain in the state that produces more. You will be like the man who, even if one stream dries, finds another, not by struggle, but because his identity demands it. Now people often ask, how do I change my self-concept? They imagine it must be a great labor, but it is done the same way you impress any state upon the subconscious, by assuming it and living from it until it feels natural. The change is not made by argument. It is made by occupancy. You move in, inwardly, and you remain. So tonight and tomorrow and the next day, return to the feeling of being the one who is provided for. Not in bursts of effort, but in quiet consistency. When you catch yourself rehearsing the old identity, I am unlucky. I am always short. I never get ahead. Do not punish yourself. Simply recognize it and replace it. That is not who I am now. And then, very gently, return to the new. You will know you are succeeding. When the new identity begins to feel ordinary, when you no longer strain to believe, when you do not feel you are performing, when the phrase, "I am provided for," brings a soft sigh, not a desperate plea. That sigh is important. It is the body's agreement. It is the nervous system relaxing into the state. And when your whole being agrees, the subconscious accepts. This is why I have spoken of gratitude as the perfume of possession. Gratitude is not a trick you do to get. Gratitude is what rises when you have inwardly taken possession. When a man truly feels provided for, gratitude appears naturally, the way fragrance rises from a flower. He does not force it. He does not manufacture it. He simply finds himself grateful, quietly, without effort. And this gratitude is not loud. It does not need to announce itself. It is an inner warmth, a calm thankfulness that says, "It is done." When you reach this, you have moved beyond the man who is trying to manifest into the man who is living from possession, and that is the state that is unstoppable. So I tell you now, do not merely desire wealth, become the one for whom wealth is natural. Do not merely desire freedom, become the one for whom freedom is ordinary. Do not merely ask for doors to open, become the one for whom doors open as a matter of course. If you will accept this, truly accept it, you will not only see a change in the next payment or the next opportunity, you will see a change in the entire pattern of your life. For the root will have changed, and the fruit must follow. And when you have tasted this, you will understand why a single event is small compared to the transformation of self. For a changed self does not beg life for evidence. A changed self produces evidence. So as you drift again towards sleep, let the last thing you claim not be merely a sum, not merely a rescue, but an identity. Let it be the quiet declaration, felt as truth: I am always provided for. I am favored. I am the one for whom doors open. And if you feel the softness of gratitude rising, allow it. It is the sign that you have inwardly taken possession, and the world will soon show you what you have already accepted within. There are those who listen to these words, and the mind, trained by years of disappointment, whispers, "Yes, but has it ever happened?" And I understand that question. It is not wicked. It is the cry of a heart that has tried and grown tired. So I will not answer you with argument. I will answer you the way life answers, by example. Not to make you dependent upon another's story, but to let the stories awaken in you the recognition of a law already at work in your own being. A man came to me once with the look of one who had been pressed too long by necessity. He was not lazy, nor foolish. He was simply weary. Bills had accumulated, and with them that peculiar fear that comes at night when the house is quiet and the mind begins to calculate what it cannot solve. He said, "I am doing everything I know to do. I work, I save, I struggle, and still I feel hunted." I did not scold him. I said, "You are not hunted by life. You are hunted by the state you occupy. Tonight you will not take your debt to bed with you." He looked at me as though I had spoken something childish, but he listened. I asked him, "What would you feel if every obligation were settled?" He answered at once, without thinking, "Relief." I would breathe again. I said, "Then you will not ask for money. You will assume relief. For if relief would come after the payment, then by the law of reversibility, relief assumed now must produce the condition called payment." I told him to construct a simple scene, not a long drama, one short moment. He was to imagine sitting at his table, opening an envelope, and seeing a statement marked in bold, "Paid in full," nothing more. And he was to feel the softness in his chest, the quiet loosening of the body, as though a weight had been lifted. He did it for several nights, not perfectly, but sincerely. At first, he told me, the imagination felt like a thin picture. His mind would argue. The old fear would rise, but each time it rose, he returned to the one thing he could actually enter: relief. And then something changed. He said, "One night, it became so real that I fell asleep smiling, not because I was forcing joy, but because it felt as though the burden had already left. That is the moment the seed takes root. 2 weeks later, he received a letter from a firm he had not dealt with in some time. An old matter, which he had assumed was dead and forgotten, had been settled in his favor. The sum was not enormous by the world's standards, but it was precise for his need. It covered what had been pressing him. He came back almost frightened by the naturalness of it. He said, "It did not come like thunder. It came like an ordinary piece of mail." And I said, "Of course. The bridge of incidents is always ordinary. The law does not shout. It fulfills." Now another came, a woman whose face carried the strain of constant calculation. She had lived for years in that state. People call making it, but never living. She said she woke every morning already tired, because before her feet touched the floor, her mind would begin its old accounting. Rent, food, small debts, the endless little demands that seem harmless until they become a chain. She had been told to affirm, and she affirmed until the words felt dry. She had been told to visualize, and she visualized until she became exhausted by effort. Yet she still went to sleep anxious. I said to her, "You have tried to change the outer while remaining the same within. You are asking life to prove to you what you have not yet accepted as true." She asked, "Then what do I do?" And I answered, "We will change your night, because the night is the open door. You will go to sleep not as a woman hoping to be free, but as a woman who is free." I asked her to choose a scene that implied a new identity, not merely money. She chose something very simple. She imagined standing at her kitchen sink, washing a cup, and hearing herself say aloud, softly, "Everything is covered. I am safe." That was all. No numbers, no grand picture, just a phrase and a feeling. The feeling she sought was not excitement but peace, quiet, settled peace. She did this in the state akin to sleep, and each time the old fear appeared, she did not wrestle it. She returned to the sensation of safety. After a short time, she told me something that matters more than any outer proof. She said, "I noticed my body stopped bracing itself. I stopped clenching." And I said, "Good. Your body is agreeing with the new state." Soon after, a relative she had not expected to hear from reached out. It was not dramatic. It was almost casual. There had been a small matter of an account, something overlooked for years, and a sum was due to her. Again, not a fortune by the world's measure, but enough to remove the immediate pressure and give her breathing room. But the greater change was this. She did not collapse afterward into fear. She told me, "For the first time I felt as though provision was normal." Do you hear that? The fruit came, yes, but the root had changed. And because the root changed, more followed: small opportunities, introductions, unexpected kindnesses, little openings that seemed coincidental until you see the pattern. The inner shift came first. The outer proof followed. There was a man who came not in poverty, but in a different bondage. He had enough to live, but he lived with the dread of loss. He was like a man guarding a candle in a windstorm, believing at any moment life would blow it out. He said, "I cannot enjoy what I have. I'm always preparing for disaster." And I told him, "Then you are poor, though you have money. For poverty is first a state." I asked him to imagine not more money, but steadiness. I asked him to feel the calm of stability. He chose a scene where a friend sat across from him and said, "You always land on your feet. Things always work out for you." At first he laughed. He said it felt like boasting. I told him, "It is not boasting, it is a new concept of self." He persisted, and something remarkable happened. He did not suddenly become reckless. He became calm. And from that calm, he made different decisions. Opportunities that he would have ignored before because fear makes you blind, he now saw. A partnership formed naturally. A venture he had been hesitant to begin moved forward with ease. Money increased, yes, but more importantly, the fear decreased. He had changed his relationship to life, and life reflected that change. Now let me give you another that illustrates delay, because this is where many lose heart. A woman desired a particular kind of financial freedom, not a single payment, but a life rearranged. She imagined herself living without anxiety. But the weeks passed, and nothing seemed to change. She would come close to abandoning the assumption because the outer world looked the same. And I said to her, "You are judging the seed by the surface of the soil. The unseen work is not visible until it is." She continued. And then, what appeared first was not money, but movement. A conversation that seemed ordinary led her to a new contact. That contact led her to a small position. Not the dream, not the final thing, but a step. And that step led to another. Months later, she said, "It came so naturally I would have called it coincidence if I had not known the law. That is always the danger and the beauty of the bridge of incidents. The law fulfills itself in such a natural manner that the unawakened mind calls it luck. But you will not call it luck when you know you planted it." And I recall a young man who wished to test the law with something definite. He did not ask for a fortune at first. He said, "I want proof." I told him, "Then choose something you will recognize." He was in need of money for an urgent expense, and he decided he would imagine receiving a check for a specific amount. I cautioned him not to be superstitious about the channel. I said, "Do not demand how, demand only the end." He chose a scene, sitting at his desk, opening an envelope, seeing the figure printed, and feeling a wave of relief. He practiced it in the drowsy state, repeating it gently as one might rock a child to sleep. He did not strain. He did not chase it through the day. He simply returned to the feeling when the mind wandered. 2 weeks passed. He nearly forgot it, which is often a sign you have truly accepted it. And then, out of what he called nowhere, an insurance matter he did not remember was resolved. A check came for the precise amount. He wrote to me with astonishment, and I replied, "It was not out of nowhere, it came out of you." Now I tell you these stories for a reason, not to entertain you, though they may soothe the mind, not to persuade you by emotion, though they may warm the heart. I tell them because the pattern is always the same. The inner state is accepted. Feeling clothes it, the subconscious receives it. Then the outer world, by means you could not have planned, arranges the bridge. In every case, the person did not obtain freedom by begging life to be kind. They obtained it by becoming free within. In every case, they did not wait for evidence to feel safe. They felt safe first, and evidence followed. In every case, they stopped carrying the old identity to bed, and took the new identity instead. And if your mind says, "Yes, but those are others," then listen to me carefully. There are no others in the sense of a separate law. The law is no respecter of persons. It does not choose favorites. It responds to the state you occupy. If these stories have any power, it is only this. They show you that the thing you desire does not begin in the world. It begins in you. And because it begins in you, it is available to you. So tonight, as you listen, do not treat these as distant tales. Let them be mirrors. Let them quietly suggest to you, if the law can do it in one, it can do it in all. If a burden can be lifted in consciousness, the world must eventually show the lifting. If relief can be felt now, then relief must be justified later by facts. If freedom can become natural within, then life will build the natural bridge without. And perhaps the most important testimony is not one I can tell you of another. It is the one you are about to live. For the moment you begin to go to sleep in possession, real possession, felt possession, you begin to write your own story. And one day, sooner than you now imagine, you will look back and say, quietly, almost in disbelief, "It changed first in me, and then the world had no choice but to follow." And now, as we come to the close of this night's instruction, I want you to remember how simple the formula truly is. Simplicity is not weakness. Simplicity is power, because it can be carried into sleep without strain. You do not need to remember 100 phrases. You do not need to perform a complicated ritual. You need only to accept what is true. Imagination is the cause. The outer world is the effect. Assumption is the path by which you move from desire to fulfillment. Feeling is the power that impresses the subconscious. Sleep is the doorway through which the impression passes into the deeper self. Persistence is the discipline that keeps you loyal to the end, and gratitude is the sign that you have inwardly taken possession. That is the whole of it. If you take nothing else from me tonight, take this. You do not change money to feel free. You feel free, and money by the law must take the form that matches your freedom. You do not wait for security to rest. You rest, and security appears as the shadow of your resting. You have heard me speak of the state akin to sleep, and of the quiet moment when the senses dim and the guard at the door relaxes. This is not poetry. It is practical. It is the most natural thing you do each night, and yet it is the most powerful. For in that drowsy borderland, the last feeling you accept becomes tomorrow's condition. So tonight, do not go to sleep as the old man. Do not go to sleep with the old weight in the chest, the old tightening in the stomach, the old inner voice saying, not yet, not enough, maybe tomorrow, maybe someday. That is a state. It is only a state, and a state can be left. Tonight, enter sleep in the feeling of freedom, not loud freedom, not boastful freedom, quiet freedom, the kind that feels like a deep sigh after a long strain, the kind that feels like a settled mind, the kind that feels like a heart no longer bracing itself against life. And when you wake, do not look to the world to decide what you are. The world will show you shadows of yesterday. Do not argue with those shadows. Do not fight them. Do not fear them. Simply remember that you have planted a new seed, and your work is to remain faithful to the end. Wake and walk as the one who already is. If you rise in the morning, and the old thoughts try to return, do not be frightened. They are habits, not truth. Return gently to your chosen identity tone. Let it be quiet, but steady. I am provided for. I am financially free. Life supports me. Doors open for me. I am the one for whom it works out. Do not say these as though you are trying to convince the universe. Say them as one remembering who he is. The subconscious responds to the feeling of reality, not to strained repetition. So let the words be softened by relief. Let them be clothed in naturalness. And if during the day you must handle a bill, handle it as you would handle any temporary shadow, without surrendering your inner state. Pay what you can, do what is wise, but do not return inwardly to bondage. You may deal with facts without worshipping them. You may see the shadow without accepting it as the cause. Your part is the assumption. The unfolding is not your burden. Do not dictate the how. Do not try to force the bridge of incidents into a shape that satisfies your reasoning mind. The bridge may come through a channel you never considered. It may come through a conversation, an opportunity, a change of position, a gift, an idea that arrives like a flash, a door that opens quietly. It may come so naturally that you will be tempted to call it coincidence, but you will know better. You will know that the movement began the moment you accepted the end. Now I ask you to do the one thing that separates those who hear truth from those who live it. Test it. Do not merely admire it. Do not merely agree with it. Test it. Tonight, as you drift into sleep, choose one simple implication that financial freedom is already yours. One short scene, one phrase heard, one feeling accepted, and let it carry you over the edge of sleep like a boat gliding into still water. Feel the relief now. Feel the burden lifted now. Feel it as done now. And if you wake in the night, do not wander back into worry. Return at once to the feeling. It is done. It is done. It is done. That gentle return is persistence. It is discipline without harshness. It is the loving firmness of one who knows the law. And let gratitude rise, not as a device, but as the natural breath of one who has already received. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. For gratitude is not something you do to get. It is the fragrance of possession. It is the sign you have accepted the state. Now, if you are ready to go deeper, know that what you have learned tonight is only the beginning. For the same law that brings you financial freedom can also shorten what you think must take years. It can collapse time. It can bring the distant near. It can take what you call later and make it now, not by force, but by the rearrangement of consciousness. There is also a method I have taught called revision, by which you alter the past in imagination, and in doing so you alter the future that grows from it. There is a deepening of self-concept, where you do not merely assume freedom for a moment, but become the kind of being to whom freedom is natural, ordinary, expected. And when that becomes natural, manifestations no longer feel like events. They feel like life. So when you are ready, I will show you how to use imagination not only to plant a seed at night, but to reshape the day itself. I will show you how to revise the inner story, and how revision changes the facts that seemed fixed. I will show you why speed is not in the world, but in the acceptance of the end. And I will show you how to deepen self-concept until the idea of not enough can no longer find a home in you. But for now, do not run ahead. Tonight is enough. Tonight, do not go to sleep as the old man. Tonight, enter sleep in the feeling of freedom. Tonight, accept the end as present. Tonight, feel the relief. Tonight, let it be done. And then, wake and walk as the one who already is. Test it, for the law is not proven by argument. It is proven by experience. And what I have experienced, you will experience if you dare to assume. Now rest. Let the body be heavy. Let the mind be quiet. Let the last impression be freedom. I am financially free. I am provided for. It is done. Thank you. And so it is.